everybody, welcome to Eden Fractal, meeting number 63. Hey, great to see you, Marco and Rosemary and Eric and Duane and Space Rainbow Joe and Noam and Lisa. We've been talking about all sorts of interesting stuff for the past half hour, and we are a couple minutes past the top of the hour, so we're going to go into the presentation and go into breakout rooms. If anyone wants to say hello, feel free to do so. Marco's talking about singing a song, maybe somebody will sing a song another time too. But anyway, we don't have much time, so if anyone wants to jump in, feel free. But otherwise, I'll just get right into the topics, or the presentation rather. I'll share a brief recap of where we're at, edenfractal.com, of course, /welcome, where you can learn a bit more about what we're doing at edenfractal.com. You can see Rosemary's messages posting in the Eden Fractal chat at t.me/edenfractal, as well as fractally and a bunch of other places where she is sharing some of the most recent videos that we've been sharing and recent meetings, and also topics on the agenda. Topics that have been proposed on consortium are Optimism, Jitsi, and Tropics, which I'll show a little bit about. And first, I'll also share the recent episodes. So we've been publishing, we just published EF61, Growing Communities. This is where we discuss funding fractals. We talked about what the best way to nourish communities are, and we explored 4 ways to fund fractals and help community members, including a novel concept to start a new kind of garden. And then, of course, you could watch the other episodes, the other recent episodes about respect trees from our 60th meeting, and agenda games, future of cagendas, and collaborating with Eden on EOS and natural cooperation, all sorts of great stuff on edenfractal.com/videos. And the most recent video of EF62 will be coming out soon this week, where we discuss tropics. Speaking of that, we're going to play cagendas after the breakout room today in our community room. So cagendas, of course, social coordination game where we can choose discussion topics and tell amazing stories together, as we saw here in the future of cagendas. Helps us share the greatest story of all time, by the way. And of course, you can go to Consortium to propose topics and also to vote on topics as well. Consortium is still a bit disorganized, but the way you can find topics is you can search. We have a prefix system where we type in T63 or TP63 to entitled topics. So if you search T63, or I also posted these in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat at t.me/edenfractal, then you can see the topics that have been proposed. I just proposed 3 of these earlier about Optimism, Jitsi, and Tropics. We're also working, I asked Vlad about how to upgrade this and sort it better, so that's another option that we can discuss soon, and perhaps we can add to the topic list for today or another week. The topics on the agenda, first off, we can just play Tropics again, in case anybody missed the last week's meeting or video. This is a new mini game that works with cagendas, where we can organize potential topics and agenda items in a Notion page. And we discussed this last week for quite a while. It was a very interesting discussion, so thanks so much, everybody. And we have a system, we have plans where we can create, I set up a Telegram group where we can discuss these things, and a Slido poll and stuff like that. And I can give anybody invite full access to the Notion page. This is the Notion page for Eden Fractal Topics. There's also an article at edencareers.com/tropics, which goes into more detail about this and how we played it last week, as well as how it came about. We discussed a lot in the 59th meeting. And then when you go to the Notion page, once again, I can give anybody access, then you can click on the things in the database. And I propose these both on Consortium and on Tropics. So if anybody wants to prioritize testing Jitsi or Optimism, they can vote on those. Or we can go with kind of a one-person, one-vote with Slido and choose from these topics. And of course, anybody else wants to add any topics on here, then feel free to either let me know, or I'll send you the invite to the Notion database so you can write stuff here as well. And so in addition to discussing tropics, we can discuss design tropics, or we can just play the tropics game where we vote on topics in Slido. The other 2 topics on the agenda are Optimism and testing Jitsi. So I'll show you like a brief preview of those. And I just put these up. I don't think anybody voted on them yet. So it's still up to the community to determine which of these topics will be the first topic that we discuss, whether we play tropics or discuss Jitsi or discuss Optimism or some other topic that somebody may propose. So feel free to upvote any of these to choose what you want to discuss the most. Jitsi is a free and open source video conferencing tool that we can test out. I've been testing out this week a couple of times, and it's quite promising. I think it might work better than Zoom in many ways. And so people can learn more at jitsi.org and meet.jit.c. We can test it out there during the community room if we'd like. Oh, I just see 2 people joined the breakout room. Noam and Perry are joining, and I took a little while to see them joining. And then also Optimism, which I've been looking into. It's a community and ecosystem that can help people create public goods, and there's also funding available. I'm excited to share it with you. It works with the Ethereum ecosystem. So this is another option that we could discuss too on Consortium or in the Tropics database. And they're doing a new funding round that's coming soon, which I'd love to discuss at some point. I think it'd be really helpful for the community. And then, yeah, basically those are the 3 topics. So feel free to vote on Consortium for whichever topic. And once again, you can search T63 or check out the Eden Fractal Telegram group to find the topics that are voted. I see Lisa wrote, may I suggest we send tasks in Calendar or Lu.ma to people each week with reminders of the week for voting, editing topics, and voting. Essentially, it's fractal play opportunities directory and notification system. Use Jitsi, discuss optimism. I love it, Lisa. Great idea. Thank you very much for sharing. Play opportunities. I love that phrasing too. Lisa wrote this in the Zoom chat. So I think that's a really cool idea. I've been thinking about we can use this to promote it earlier through the week as well, so people can be reminded. And yeah, we're just getting the system set up. And one of the main reasons for topics is so we can have more, community participation and voting for topics through the week. So great idea. If you want to add anything to that, Lisa, feel free. But thanks so much for sharing it. I think it's an excellent idea. And I think we should do that. So maybe we could discuss that afterwards too.
Yeah.
Or feel free, go ahead.
Sure, briefly. I just was noticing Lu.ma has that really good notification system that you've been using to remind us of when the meetings are. And there's so many tasks essentially, but they're really play opportunities. If we want to do it, we can do it. If we don't, we don't have to, right? But I often find myself going, oh, I should have done that while I was on the PC, or I should have done that while I was on the mobile, or whatever, or it's at the last minute, right? So if it's somehow it's a notification and we can save it to our calendar when we want to do it, or it functions as like however we have our calendar notification set up or something, like Lu.ma seems to be really strong at, that could be great because and it could indicate this is a play opportunity somehow, or put a P or whatever, I don't know, but so people know it's optional, it's not a meeting, it's a task or something like that. But there might even, that system seems to be so robust, there might even be a point system in place for it. GiveLab, I think, would work as a point system for some things like visiting links and possibly doing things. But Lu.ma might have that built in as well. But I mean, there's probably like 10 things we could do this week with between the two fractals at least, right? So I would think that's a point of friction that if we improve, we'll get a ton more engagement, a lot more engagement.
I agree. Excellent point. Thank you, Lisa. I wrote some notes about this and I'll review this and we can discuss it more after the breakout room, especially if anybody wants to vote for the topics and we can discuss that more. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. Rosemary's giving a thumbs up as well. And I'm looking forward to doing that very much. And also about growing engagement too. Yeah, just one last thing is I encourage everybody to share this with friends too. I think we're doing amazing things. And so feel free to share with friends, and share with friends to help get the word out. But anyway, we are 9 minutes past the top of the hour. So I think we should go into the breakout rooms now, and we'll do a 15-minute breakout room to the top of the hour, if that sounds good with everybody. If anybody else wants to share anything else first, then now is the time to do so. Thanks again so much, Lisa. Thanks again so much, everybody, for being here. Also, welcome, Perry and Tadas. Thanks for joining, and welcome back, Noam. Thanks, everybody, so much. I'm going to start at the breakout rooms, and if anyone wants to jump in, then feel free. All right, breakout rooms are open, and Perry is given the graffiti cannon. So, and I also got a reminder to test to trigger the election for Eden Fractal too. So I'll do that right now, and hope everybody has a great time, and the elections will work, or the action will work rather.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle of work. So.
Hey, what was that, Marco?
Kind of in the middle of work.
Okay. Sounds good. Hey, Noam and Duane and Space Wrangler. Hope you all doing well. Would anybody like to kick us off and go first?
Sure.
Cool. Thanks, Marco.
All right. So it's been a while. Doing a lot of the same things, a couple of new things. I forgot what's new since the last time. But can you hear me okay?
Yes. It's not the best audio quality, but I can certainly hear you. So it sounds good.
I don't know if it's vibrations or what, but I get this construction and stuff going on, and sometimes it echoes as well. But I got the mic at least. So all right. So I'm doing a newsletter. I've been doing it for a while. Upgraded the w3briefs.com website. Covering the node operators. There's a lot going on there with 5.0 coming out, the launch. It's a lot of good info if anybody's developed here. Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on in Eden Neos, and that really seems centered on Hypha now. The big part of EOS kind of second tier thing. And there was some, and there was alpha mentioned on the mid-year roundtable, but there seems to be some other alpha coming out of that. And I had it, I just forgot. It's not, doesn't have to do with Hypha, maybe something with hot stuff. And well, here's another thing, at least. EVM and EOS Labs is worth looking into because there's questions of how much will EOS Labs go back into Pomelo, if Pomelo still exists, or public goods. So the question that really hit home recently was EOS Labs dedicating to a native or EVM development. And some of that, it goes into what Eden and EOS is doing, what we're doing, and what Alien Worlds or IBC is doing. So the decisions you make, Hypha is kind of EOS, but EOS kind of on part of what they're doing. It's not dedicated to only EOS. And then you have something like IBC that's going to probably benefit EOS more than EVM as far as community-wise, maybe not financially, but the development of IBC is going to flow out of the ENF, and there's been talk of IBC going to Bitcoin. So I know I'm talking about updates in here, but some of this, a lot of this stuff gets included in the information I provide. So I just figured it was easier to go that way. So I have several different ways that the information goes out. My main project is W3 Briefs, but I'm helping with others. How big is our ecosystem now? If you're not aware, Pomelo has the Bitcoin ordinals, and so does another EOS project called Crypto Free in a more roundabout way, but they do have it, less EOS way. But I did ask, and the Pomelo team is still set on doing the Bitcoin ordinals thing. And if you were listening to the hot stuff, development talk, they were talking about it's possible and not all that hard to get an EOS IBC onto Bitcoin. It may not be a lot of tangible stuff other than W3 Briefs and the newsletters and the articles, but well, that factors in. I don't see a runway. I kind of don't see it. Anyway, I'll pass it off to Duane because he's a gamer.
Awesome, thank you. I've been working on a few things here. One is Hypha to get that organized, and yeah, so we've got I believe 9 members in there, so I'm going to start organizing that. I've signed up to be the lead for Eden on EOS for the reputation and the tech communities. So I see some crossover. Eden's at a crossroads of deciding really what they're going to be. But there is some great tech that we can use for other groups, including non-transferable tokens for participation, running meetings, different things like that. So kind of see with IBC and games that, even if there's sort of a split with Eden that it does say an incubator or something else, there's still some inherent value with what they're doing as far as, the NFTs and proof of person. There's a proposal coming to Eden to use fractally as the method going forward is for voting and kind of, organizing our different subcommittees. And yeah, so we'll see how that goes forward. Candidate on eyeke, and yeah, we just got elected in for another week, which is fantastic. And then realizing how important it is to organize ourselves in these other groups. So with Lisa's help, organizing, say, out of Alien Worlds, these sub DAOs that get money to transfer money to, to other programs and projects. The alpha is that there are some DAO tools coming down from Alien Worlds as well, and that those will be limited to people that are already organized in multi-sigs and other groups. So definitely an advantage for us already being organized. Let's see. That's, besides the terrestrial things that I'm excited about, that's probably, yeah, it's probably the most of what I've done this next week, or this last week. This next week, yeah, lots to do. I'll transfer it to the next person, and it's Space Wrangler Joe.
All right, good morning. So I actually am part of Hypha, so I'm excited to learn more about it and see how I can get involved. And yeah, a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of interesting tools. Definitely a lot to learn. I've had some productive meetings this last week with Eric and Lisa and Red and Sandra. So I'm getting more involved with the Alien Worlds fractally stuff, and yeah, and I've been got a few things set up with Eric. We're doing well, I mean it's for everyone, but Eric helped me pin it down and put a date on it and everything. So we're doing a free class, an AI thing on September 1st, I believe. I've been pushing pretty hard with some Upland people about really trying to figure out how to connect these two metaverses. They're already in this group called OMA3, which is kind of like a metaverse regulatory group. Like they're all getting together to try to create a standard. Let's say, I don't, regulatory is not a great term, but like a standard that everyone can go by. And so I feel like, you know, Upland's EOS, even though a lot of them don't know it. So I think it naturally, you know, feeds into Eden and fractally and all this stuff. So, yeah, that's been pretty exciting, and it's slowly paying off a little bit. I kind of started planting seeds, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and then I just had more talks and kind of actually a couple people sent me one person in particular sent me a diagram of how he thinks the thing should work, and other people are sending me messages. So definitely have the wheels turning and have people excited. So that's good. Also been trying to make sure to go to the Aquadac meetings, and they've been really helpful too. And yeah, that's it for me this week. And I will pass it to Noam. And I meant to look more on which things I should bring on my spaceship, but I haven't, Noam, but I haven't forgotten.
Okay. So, like I said at the beginning, I've been looking into. I'm in the U.S. now. I flew over from Israel, and I was actually on one of the AW Fractal Twitter Spaces from the airport, but traveling made my internet access sporadic. And since I've been here for the last 2 days, I've been taking care of my bank accounts, looking at some of the other things, and got to looking at tax implications. It made me realize something. When I signed up for the conference, I used TLM that I got from participating in the science committee on the eyeke council. So in a sense, I got it. I got the TLM from the eyeke Council. I used it for the eyeke conference. If the IRS were to look at that, I could clearly explain that this is all inside the Alien Worlds game and that there were no actual transactions there. But if I had, for example, used the EOS before I got the TLM from the eyeke Council, if I'd used my EOS to trade it in for TLM to sign up for the conference, then it would be a lot harder. The IRS could come and say, hey, you sold EOS, you bought TLM with it. We don't care what you did with the TLM. You now have a profit on the EOS that you got. As long as they don't sell the EOS, the IRS doesn't care. But if I trade it for TLM, that creates a tax liability. And as I've said before, I think that creates an opportunity for people to create the equivalent of a mutual fund. What mutual funds do on the stock market, which is basically you buy the mutual fund and the mutual fund trades the stocks, but you don't have a tax event until you sell the mutual fund yourself. So they can trade the stock, they can change the different stocks in their portfolio, and you don't have to worry about the tax liability until you actually go and sell the fund. If we could do an equivalent thing, a smart contract on the blockchain that traded different cryptocurrencies, but you wouldn't have a tax liability in terms of US law until you actually sold the fund or sold your shares in a DAO, I think that would really simplify things, and it would probably have a pretty good market if we created something like that. So I think that's an interesting thing to explore, and I think that's the most interesting thing I've done this week that's relevant. So I'll pass it on to Dan.
All right, sounds great. Thank you very much, Noam, and great hearing from everybody. Thanks, Duane and Jill and Marco, very much. And I suppose I'll just jump right into the presentation of stuff I've been doing to help Eden Fractal this week and help everybody here in the community. Cool. I've been thinking of that, by the way, about like the goal and the mission, just as kind of a side note while my screen share is loading. I think that helping Eden Fractal and helping everybody specific in the community, maybe that's a good way to define the goal of the game, to help each other and to help Eden Fractal. Anyway, something to maybe ponder. So this week, I've been working on a bunch of different stuff. This stuff was mostly done by Rosemary. She did a great job and she's getting really good at this. So I've kind of just helped her out with some of the just kind of editing and stuff like that. And but yeah, she's been mostly doing that, but I've been working on helping train her on stuff like that, a bunch of different stuff. She put up the Eden Town Hall like promotion a couple days ago, and I hosted up the Eden Town Hall. Thanks to Marco for joining, and we tested Jitsi, and we had kind of a laid-back conversation. Might publish it soon, and that goes to the topics I proposed recently as well. And then I've also been spending some this week just updating and catching up on old show notes. Like the plan is to have show notes for each video episode. So we have like a nice thumbnail, and then we have a nice intro, and then we have a nice little description that starts it, and then we go to the show notes, and we have little highlights of like what happened during the meeting, so people can just see things very concisely. And for a while, I wasn't able to catch up with this, but I was catching up on the past few weeks now, so we can share it and then have it where people can see it easily. And one of the tools I've been exploring to do this faster is Notion AI. Or just AI in general, lots of different AI tools. So in addition to like the show notes, it's also, or the highlights, it also has topics and timestamps and other things that people might find helpful. So yeah, I've been experimenting with Notion AI. I mentioned this last week too, so it's kind of a work in progress, but I'm continuing to just experiment with AI workflows to cooperate and coordinate as efficiently as possible. And these AI tools are really powerful. So continuing to write a lot of notes kind of in the background, and eventually I'll share these notes more in Notion. I think that the plan that we're doing with Tropics and the Notion and every cooperating Notion, I think that'll be helpful to share notes at a much higher bandwidth or a much higher like frequency. Another big thing that we're working on this week is Mighty Networks. So if anybody's not familiar, oh, maybe I should open this actually. I forgot to open the window with the Mighty Networks that I'm referring to in particular. It is the former Go Fractally Mighty Network. It was also called NDAO for a while. I had a conversation with Josh, who created the Mighty Networks some time ago. And yeah, I'd have to search for it, so maybe I'll just save it for later. I think everybody here has seen it, but yeah, I spoke with Josh for a while and caught up with Josh and see what he's doing in life. He's working a lot with Mighty Networks and doing some really exciting stuff. Excited to learn more about our tools and the stuff we're building here. And we're going to talk more in the future. But he also, I've been researching this for a while because he asked me if I wanted to steward the Mighty Networks that we had for the Go Fractally. And, you know, since Fractally hasn't been meeting anymore, the Fractally team kind of gave it to him and said, do what you think is best with it. And he reached out to me asking if I wanted to steward it and help it grow. So he set me as admin. And so I've just been thinking about ways to make courses here and have it as a place where we can invite everybody. We can invite all sorts of different fractals and communities using these fractal defense games and have tutorials and courses and all sorts of different things like that. This could also be a way that could be a revenue model for people in the community too, where people could teach courses. There's quite a good like commerce system, and it works with EVM, so you can like token gate different experiences, and eventually you can make your own app too. So I think it'd be really cool to make an app. I've been still building the Fractal Joy brand, and I mentioned it to Josh, and he liked that. So I'm thinking about at some point releasing a Fractal Joy app that shares what we're doing here at Eden Fractal, as well as Fractalien World and Aquadac and whatever other fractals, like with Spanish Fractal and all the other fractals that may emerge and that are out there, Art Fractal as well. And then we can have a place where it makes it easy for everybody to come together and play together and grow together. I wrote about a bunch about that today or a couple of days ago as well. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that and continue to do research there, watching a lot of these videos to learn how it all works. And that is a work in progress that I'm excited to report on. I also made an application on Gitcoin, GG18, which is their 18th grant round. It was about $1.25 million. If anybody wants to make this, it's still open today, I think is the last day. This is kind of like Pomelo, but on Ethereum. And it's quite nice. It's quite awesome. I've been blogging for a while, and I was able to get in last minute last time, but this time I applied with Eden Creators, and also helped Rosemary apply with Community Stories too. And I suggested it to a few other people, like Jorge, I think I suggested it to. Yeah, well, I brought it up last week actually, and Jorge responded, and then I showed it to Gudasol and Joe at the recent Aquadac meeting. So this is a way to interact more with the Ethereum community and the larger Web3 community, and then also raise some funding to help grow what we're doing with Eden Creators as well. And so really excited about that and happy to work with or help people out with that if you'd like. And then another thing I did this week too, I mentioned about the town hall that I hosted. I've been looking into Jitsi. I did a lot of research in Jitsi. This is kind of like a lot of links I opened. I want to organize this page eventually at edencreators.com/Jitsi at some point, but for right now, it's just kind of a lot of random notes, and I've shared much more, and I've probably researched, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours, something more like that. I listened to a podcast with the founder, but that's a platform at meet.jitsi or something. I had it linked in the topic that I proposed. I also proposed these topics too, which is a contribution in itself, as well as like hosting and all the other stuff that goes in the background. But it's an open source and free video platform that can be alternative to Zoom, or better than Zoom in many ways. It's really actually a great software. So been researching that, and then I've also been researching a lot into Optimism. Optimism is a low cost, or the OP main network rather. Optimism, I'm still figuring out how to define it. I love the name Optimism, and they have an OP mainnet, the Optimism mainnet, which is a Ethereum layer 2 blockchain, and the Optimism is a technology that powers it, I suppose. And they're really big on funding public goods. I've been recently doing a lot of research on them. I listened to several podcasts this week, learning about their upcoming funding opportunities and how they're so focused on improving public goods funding. Like they're planning on funding a lot of public goods and also using really interesting governance, like Vitalik and some big players in the Ethereum space are a really big fan of it. So I've been learning a lot about Optimism and planning out how we can engage with their community more. And I've also starting to write an article about it where I am curating some videos that are loading, and they'll eventually load, but it's not loading right now. But yeah, a lot of articles, and I'm going to be curating more. I also made proposed a topic this week and looking into layer 2s in general in Ethereum, like also Coinbase and the Public Goods Network and Zora Network. They're all launching with OP Stack, which is the same software. So I'm just kind of learning about how this whole ecosystem works. And then I also put up the start election button I had open. And then I explained some of this. I went to Aquadac and I explained some of it to Douglas and Gudasol and talked about ways that we could work together on these things, as well as gave Joe some, I suppose, advice, or just answered some questions about how to best start a fractal with Upland. And then I also hosted the Fractalien Worlds, the Alien Worlds Fractal meeting this week too. And then I also joined the EOS Fireside Chat, and Lisa had spoken about EOS Ship, a meeting that I co-host with Lisa every Thursday at 15 UTC. And so Lisa had come up and spoken about it for 5 minutes or so, and then I followed up and I just shared, how great it was working with Lisa and promoted the EOS Ship and Eden Fractal and Alien Worlds Fractal, and talked about all of our collaborations that we're doing in these communities and promoted it. There's about 60 or 70 people on the Fireside Chat, so cool to get the word out. And I've just been updating a lot of old pages, like the signal page is pretty messy right now. So I've been trying to just prepare for, say, when we go to the Ethereum community with Optimism, like how can we make the best impression possible for the tools and games that we're playing. So I've been trying to just update some of these sites and also upgrade the visuals of the sites with new templates and stuff like that. That is, I suppose, everything. I also updated the Eden Fractal Topics database too, which I'll show later. But I suppose for now I can just stop. I probably went over 5 minutes anyway. But yeah, I added those, I proposed those topics and add more so we can get more into detail of those after the breakout room as well. And that took some design to figure out the best way to do it as well.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
So the pomelo team didn't consider this a game, right? So here's the thing. Gambling is considered a game. I don't consider it a game. But it satisfies game theory. So I'd support anyone that could present an argument, whatever these agendas need to satisfy gaming classification. An alignment with game theory that at least is equal to gambling. The reason why, the main reason why is, the first thing is the difference between gaming and fitness, mental or physical, is that there's a risk of being hurt, but the enjoyment is there. So you're playing for more than physical or mental fitness. But the other thing is the experience. So people generally don't like to exercise or generally don't like to do mental skill exercises, but they do generally like to play games. Gambling is more of an addiction, and the thing is that even though people may seem like they like it, when they look back, they generally don't. Whereas when you look back on a gaming experience, it's generally a treasured experience, which generally people see on these fractally things. So if that helps, move forward, and just activate it up.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion, Marco, and explaining. I'm curious. I'm sorry, maybe I missed it. I was also just I was a little bit distracted because I was trying to just see what the topics on the agenda were, who voted. So could you? I heard it all, but I'm not totally sure what the next step is. So you mind just clarifying, like what would be the summary or the next step, or the question to ask, or the thing to do?
Yeah, just if it these cagendas need to be associated more like in a gaming format, or if so, like if anybody asks like pomelo again, there's a way. If they fund a gambling mechanism, then this should be funded because of the very nature of looking back on a treasured experience, which generally gaming is, and it's generally exciting. Or they could also be used, so for an explanation for anyone, or funding or whatever, or inclusion. And at the same time, it could be a way to maybe incorporate in the planning if gaming is the dedicated focus, future categorization. So treasured experience is a key factor in a game. Enjoyment is another one. Risk is in there, but gambling is less risk as it's proven fair for the house, not the player. So maybe proven fairness on the field is another criteria. Anyway, yeah, just future stuff.
Great, thanks, Marco. Those are really interesting thoughts. I have some things I'd like to respond to. Of course, also, if anybody wants to share some thoughts or questions for anybody before we go into Bractogram, then feel free to do so. I suppose first I'll go ahead and respond to Marco, and then curious if anybody else has any thoughts about this as well, or if anybody else wants to ask any other questions or raise any other topics, then that would be welcome too, of course. So yeah, Marco, that's a great point. And a few different things that come that I think about it. So we've been calling it a game, and I think it's like just the start of a game. We're playing a game, but the game can be evolved a lot more, basically. And I think it's best as a game, but the pomelo team didn't understand it as a game because I don't know, they had their own preconceptions or whatever, and also yeah, if they're not here for each meeting, which they're not, and they're busy with their stuff too, they have their own way of seeing it, and they also had their own kind of system where they were listening to the ENF and so forth for the grant partners. If you want to go ahead, I had more I could say, but go ahead.
Okay, so the thought began, this is not a game, right? So I agree with Pomelo. And I mean, that thought just now, I mean, before I finished the thought, as I thought about it, I did my general test. The test came out of which apps are gambling and which apps are gaming. So I did that test years ago. So, and when I did the test, the cagendas passed, right? So if you present that, that's the thing. So I understand where Pearl is coming from, but they may just have not actually done the test for a game. For what is a game? You know what I'm saying? Like when I thought of it and I looked at it initially without doing the test, I said no, and that was just today. That was 5 minutes ago until I did the test. It's a valued experience. It's enjoyable, and there's a risk involved. It's not like they must have been thinking it's like a standardized corporate business type of voting governance sort of thing. And the more I thought about it, anyway, there's a community sense like gaming is.
Yep, that all makes sense, and I agree. Like having a game, it's really important to have that valued experience that people are enjoying and treasured experience, and make it fun and rewarding. Like make people want to play more. Really, like a fun game. And when it's a game, it really should be like. To me, it's obvious a game, and it should be obvious to everybody. But we also have to share that more and share why it's so fun and rewarding, and get that message across. Pomelo, another thing too is like it depends on how you define a game. So I asked Pomelo for a criteria by which they were judging a game, and they never responded to me. I gave criteria, and I cited an article I wrote and where Eve was speaking about it, which I figured would be helpful, but they didn't define it. They had their own thing. I guess they're busy. But another thing is too, like one, first off, Pomelo is one player, and now they don't get funding from the ENF, so who knows how much Pomelo will continue. And when we go to other people as well, like they might not have a first impression, so we can explain it better. And then by that time, I think that we should make it, like it can be so much more. It can be really fun with like amazing visuals and more rewards. Right now, it's kind of like there isn't a reward directly, like other than being able to share your topic, which is a great reward, having attention and so forth. But there's much more ways we can gamify it and make it very clear to people that it's a fun game.
A game isn't necessarily rewarding, right? As far as financially or in the Internet of Value, it is because the servers are there. So you can't have the referee in charge of the equipment, which is what it's like now. So it doesn't have to be rewarding, but it does have to be at some level entertaining or creative. So yeah, whatever does that, and I guess in a way, it kind of removes the time element because when you're playing a game, you kind of lose track of time. So if you can do that, that's kind of it. And on the Pomelo thing, I'll say they probably don't have the respect for gaming or art in the same way as so very few people do. If you get what I'm saying, artists aren't generally, their brilliance isn't generally recognized until there's a social agreement on it. Same thing with gaming. The reason why gaming is respected is because it can be sold on TV. So it's not actually playing that you get it, so you don't see the benefits of it. Tennis is played by the wealthy because it's obvious to see that lateral movement is a benefit. Basketball and things like that. So anyway, I don't know if that helps, but yeah, I think losing track of time like you can in a piece of art, music, or whatever is also a part of the entertainment value or whatever.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I love that definition. A game, or I don't know definition, but like it's a good way to know a game. If you're losing track of time because you're having so much fun and you're enjoying it, then like for sure, it's a game. And when you know, I suppose. And we want to get to the point where everybody just like enjoys it a lot. Anyway, thanks Marco for sharing. I'm happy to talk about this more too. I think it's an excellent topic, but also we have about 20 minutes left until or 19 minutes until we got to reach consensus and go to the community room. And I'm curious if anybody else has any other thoughts. If you want to talk about games and Pomelo and so forth, we'd be happy to hear. But if anybody has any questions or comments for anybody in the group before we go into Fractogram, does anybody have anything else like to share or more thoughts on this topic?
Not for me.
I mean, I do, but forget it.
Okay. Cool. More thoughts about this topic, Marco, or the thoughts about any other topic?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be more rants on how gambling shouldn't be attacked, but let's forget that for now.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm interested to hear that. I'm also interested to ask Joe a question too, but I'm curious if Noam or Duane have anything they want to share. Okay. Yeah, Joe, I'm just curious. I think you mentioned it there, and we talked about it the other day, but maybe I missed something. Yes, I guess it was yesterday when we were at the Aquadac call. But you mentioned the Upland fractal. I'm wondering if you could just, and I don't know if you're calling it the Upland fractal. I think I asked you that yesterday, and I don't know if you have a name for it, but I'm just curious if you could provide a bit more detail about that whole situation. You've been working with the Upland community, and you're just aiming to help the community, like however, as far as I understand. But you see that starting Upland Fractal might be like a really helpful way to do that, or something. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. It's just my understanding. So yeah, I'm just curious if you want to elaborate more on that relationship and where you see that going and where it's at.
Yeah, okay, so for me, that's a group, a community that I really do know a lot of people in, and like they're they're much more tangible to me, not than you guys. I'd say they're at your level, right? So we got this small group here, and I'd say there's about 20 people that for these past months or whatever I've developed a rapport with, and I feel like I know them. I feel like they're real people. I know who these people are. Alien Worlds, on the other hand, I have no idea. They could all be bots. I've talked to maybe like five or 10, other than the people that are outside of this room, right? So by joining that group, which I know are real people, that I can actually verbally speak with and be like, hey, this is what's going on with Alien World and our metaverse, and we can connect the two. And I know you may not be involved with Alien Worlds, check it out. And there's things that we can do. They do want to help create community. They are in the same groups together. I'd like to see something that bridges the two. Like I said, the founders already kind of have teamed up for their own groups to create these standards. So they're already saying, hey, like go ahead and make these connections. We want them. So I'm just trying to like take that extra step, and then I think it'll benefit Alien Worlds by introducing these people who are committed, serious kind of metaverse gamery people to this other thing, which in a sea of all of these things popping up right now, to get people to focus on one or two is not an easy task. So basically getting a group
Minutes to reach consensus might be a good idea for everybody to respond.
Yeah, that I'm down with that too. Yeah.
You can keep talking, just encouraging everybody to sign in on the on the fractalgram as you're talking.
Perfect. Okay. I gotta get this respawn to this thing. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I think it's got the potential. Because maybe we can bring some of the alien world people um, into Upland as well, and get a different perspective on what. And you know, some people from the alien worlds group will understand that metaverse better, and the people from Upland will understand theirs, and they can hopefully kind of help each other and do this kind of cross bridge thing. And maybe ultimately, I know, Visa and them and Dakota, there's a lot of kind of legal ease and weird stuff that happens with alien worlds, but Upland is pretty open about doing meetups and different things like this. So I think that, a group combo meetup thing is a real possibility in the future, and like fully supported by that metaverse. But I think it'll be like a slow getting there process. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, Joe, for sharing that, and also networking and building with Upland and also helping to promote and grow these fractal consensus games and helping more gaming communities. I think Upland's awesome community and game, so I'm looking forward more, as I said yesterday, to collaborating and helping out with that however I can. I'm really excited about your progress.
Cool.
All right, great.
Yeah, maybe you can be our first switch over. Not switch over, but convert.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. I'd be happy. I mean, I don't know if I'll be a convert. You mean from Alien Worlds or from what exactly?
Well, not a convert, let's say, but like you'll just at least try the other one and see to get a new perspective on how these things could work together and benefit each other.
Okay, excellent. Well, yeah, I would love to. I would love to do that. So yeah, please feel free to reach out if there's anything I can help with, and I'll try to help as much as I can. And yeah, if there's anything else you want to share there, Joe, here, then we'd be happy to hear. I think it's an awesome initiative. Or yeah, we only have about 12 minutes left, so we should probably get into consensus pretty soon. If anybody else has any thoughts or questions or comments for anybody here, then feel free to ask. I'll also put the poll up for level 6, so if anyone wants to start voting. Does anybody else have any other thoughts or questions or comments for anybody before we really get into consensus?
I do. It's kind of off topic. So I mean, it's good for the ecosystem. I think it's kind of off topic, and it applies to both Alien Worlds and Upland. And since there's so many players, I almost don't want to bring it up. So I do have a comment on the onboarding for these games. And their Web3-ish feel. I like them both. I'm not definitely not saying anything like that. No, maybe people for another time.
Okay, cool.
Vote for Dan. We need a fourth.
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks, Noam. Yeah, how about we save that topic for after, if we have time after consensus, or another time. Looking forward to getting into it. And yeah, everybody can vote now, I think, is a good idea. And it looks like there's been 4 votes so far. We haven't yet received a vote from Duane. Duane, can you please vote when you get a chance? Are you with us?
Yeah, we got the vote from Duane.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It looks like everybody voted for me. I voted for Joe. But thanks everybody for your votes. I appreciate it very much. And I'm honored to earn your respect.
Yeah, there's a lot of outside alpha, which I like. The reason why I chose W3 briefs instead of EOS game is I think we need to transition, and if you're doing that here, connected to EOS at the same time looking for a bigger thing, and that means demonstrating what EOS can do in the cryptoverse, and finding any connection out there is nice. So I'll give you a huge point for that.
Okay, great. Glad to hear. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Marco. For level 5, we have everybody's voted, and we have some split consensus. There's 2 votes for Duane from Noam and Joe, 2 votes for Joe from me and Duane, and 1 vote from Marco. Would anybody like to? Oh, it looks like Marco switched over to Duane. Would anybody like to advocate? Right now it's 2-3. I was also thinking, I really appreciate, I was listening to the Eden tech call, and I appreciate that Duane is leading that as well. And that was a really interesting call where they were talking about using Eden Fractal tools, and Vlad and Jorge did some great work advocating and sharing. I think they're going to do proposals. So that's really exciting, and I appreciate Duane leading that, as well as all the other tech initiatives, or just helping out, sort out all the reputation system and Hypha and how all these tools can cooperate. So I was thinking of voting for Duane too. I'd be happy to switch my vote, but also it was really great talking with Joe yesterday. I think that Upland is a huge opportunity. That's why I voted for Joe. Joe in general has just been doing a great job contributing for a long time. I appreciate it a lot. So that's why I voted how I voted, but happy to switch if you all would like. Does anybody want to advocate or share why they voted for who they voted for?
I voted for Duane because he's doing a lot and is a custodian and yeah, he's doing a lot. So that's what I did.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm happy to switch over if nobody would like. I could vote for Duane, but if anybody else wants to share their thoughts, I'm happy to be swayed, or maybe anybody else will. Anybody else has any thoughts about this? If not, then I suppose I'll go with consensus and vote for Duane. And now Duane has 80% of the votes. And we can go on to level 4. We're missing a vote from one person who is Joe. Joe, can you please vote?
All right, I got it. I hate voting for myself, but I'm gonna switch it so we can get through this.
Thank you. Although we still don't have consensus. So right now, Joe has 3 votes from. Well, actually, Joe, you just voted for no. So if you vote for yourself, then you'll have
Right,
consensus.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I did. But I saw him and I switched it out. Okay.
Okay. Sounds
We
good.
got consensus.
And now we have consensus, and now we're on level 3. And we're just missing Duane's vote right now. Right now it's a tie. And it looks like Duane voted for Marco, as did I and Marco, and Noam and Joe voted for Noam. Would anybody like to share their reasoning?
I'm switching.
What's up, Noam?
I just switched.
Oh.
We got consensus.
Okay, cool. We got consensus. Marco got the level 3 spot, and that means Noam got the level 2 spot. And yeah, really appreciate everybody, of course, as always. It's great to see all the amazing progress. Round of applause. Thanks, Marco, for leading that. And yeah, I suppose now we can just get into it. 5 minutes left, so we can do the consensus for the delegate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to open up the spreadsheet to see who is a delegate currently, because I don't remember. Would anybody? I'll share the link there in case anyone wants to see. Does anybody else want to be a delegate, or Marco, you have some thoughts to share here?
Not this week. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the delegates in 4 weeks ago is expiring now. So Noam and myself were delegates 4 weeks ago, but that doesn't count anymore. Rosemary and Jorge and 3 weeks ago. Tadas and myself, so I'm in council 43 from 2 weeks ago, and Eric and Perry from last week. So right now, I'm the only delegate in the group, and I was elected as a delegate 2 weeks ago.
You said a thought. Delegates aren't getting paid, right?
No, not really. I mean, nothing more specifically for being delegate. We're still giving out 100 years per week from according to the respect that people get a week. But delegates don't get any additional funding for being delegate.
Maybe that can change in some way. Whether it be a separate fractal in the community room or separate vote or whatever, or just it doesn't have to be much, but I'm just thinking a little bit of something. I don't know what.
So
Yeah.
who's running for delegate?
I could run and be delegate again if you all would like, but I'm also happy to hear Noam or Duane or Joe if you guys are interested in being a delegate.
I'm on travel. I can't commit.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know. Setting expectations clearly. Joe, Duane?
Got lots of commitments, so I'll pass this time.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for letting us know, Joe.
Yeah, I better not do it unless no one else can do it, then I will.
Okay, I can do it, and I'm happy to.
If no one's going to run against you, I run against you.
Oh, you're running against me. Oh, the match is on now. Okay, cool.
I just tell you now, whatever it's going to be is going to be quick, decisive, and no red tape because I don't have the time for red tape.
Wait, what was he say? Quick, decisive, and what?
It'll be quick, decisive, and no red tape because I don't have the time for red tape.
For being a delegate, you mean, or you mean for choosing to be a delegate right now, or over the next 4 weeks, as you potentially will be a delegate, you don't have time for
For the
red
next 4 weeks, any
Okay.
decision will be quick, decisive, probably intuitive, and there definitely won't be any red tape. If you vote for Dan, there might be a lot of red tape sitting around.
I feel like I'm getting a little bit of like what's that, like a smear campaign? Like, oh, the red tape from Dan, this guy over here.
I think he was cynical.
Was that no?
I think he was joking.
Yeah, no, I'm joking too.
I don't have the time, so these are my strengths.
I don't have any red tape, just to be clear. Although metaphorically, we could put some red tape on if it's necessary, but generally, I'm not for the red tape if not needed. Red carpets made. But anyway, I see some people voted, and we can game on, so we'll see what we have voted for here. And we haven't received a vote yet from Marco. So far, Duane voted for Marco, and then me, Noam, and Joe voted for myself. I'd also, oh, is that Marco? You want to say something here?
Is there consensus?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you need to. Oh no, there's not a consensus. So we have 3-2. We have about 2 minutes to figure it out too. So would anybody like to advocate? I still voted for myself because I do have a lot of time to devote to this. I don't plan to do red tape. I plan to just help as much as possible. And so just out of time, because I know you said you didn't have that much time because you have a lot of other things going on. But my full focus is here, and so I'm going to pay very close attention. Happy either way, really. But
diversity is a very good, powerful political word, so I'm going to use diversity. If you vote for Dan, he's already been one, so you're not getting any change there. He says no red tape, but you know, if you found red tape in the past, I wasn't there in the past. I'm new, fresh. So, how much time we got?
We have a minute left, so we better come to consensus pretty soon. Has anybody been swayed by me or Marco yet? We're having a run right now, going for this delegate. It's getting heated. What's that?
Switching, but right now we're.
Hey, I'm going to use my podium for. How about we have at the end the questionnaire of funness score for the breakout room, and then maybe we can do something with that later. But that might add to the game thing, and I would rate this room as a higher funness score than some of the other ones. And with that, I'll retract my canvassing for the delegate, and we can close.
Okay, so sounds good. Thanks, Marco. This has been fun, and thanks. I'll happily accept the nomination. Happy to also support your nomination in the future, Marco, and enjoy the. I enjoy the laughs and also the competition, and also the ideas too about how we can improve the delegacy and the idea of rewarding delegates directly. I think that's a very interesting idea to explore. So I'm looking forward to exploring that more with you. And yeah, I suppose I can also post the consensus results now, so everybody can submit that before we go to the breakout room.
The breakout room closes.
Yep, it is here now, and I encourage everybody to open the link by clicking here and then submitting the consensus results. Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks everybody so much for the great meeting. I really appreciate all the conversation, all the ideas, Marco. This has been very insightful and fun. And also Duane and Noam and Joe, awesome conversations and awesome work. So thanks everybody so much. I will end the breakout room.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just realized I was muted. I said, hey, Perry, and I said, hey, Tadas, and I said, hey, everybody, great to see you all. Hope you all had a excellent time and a really fun time in the breakout rooms.
Hello, Dan. Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, Jorge, as well. Thanks again for joining, and hope you're doing well. And we can go into the topics on the agenda for the cagendas game now. I'm just pulling up my window just to be able to confirm the most amount of votes right now. If anybody has any quick comments or things you want to share from your breakout room or anything else in your mind, then feel free to share right now. and we'll head into the topics shortly. Okay, I was just confirming that, and it looks like if nobody has comments, then I can just go into the presentation about the cagendas game. All right, hope everybody had an awesome time. Our breakout room was really fun, and now we're going to play cagendas as we do here at Eden Fractal each week. So it's a coordination game where everybody can vote on consortium to vote on topics that we discuss. I also posted these in the Eden Fractal Telegram chat, as I said before. I encourage everybody to. I was the only person who made topic proposals this week. I spoke about it with several people too, so it's kind of a coordinator after a little bit. But yeah, in the future, feel free to make any topics proposals, and also feel free to vote on them here. And as I said before, you can search T63 to find the 3 topics on the agenda. I haven't refreshed this page, so right now there's no votes on the agenda, but there was votes. So Tadas voted. I believe that Tadas was the only person who voted. I just confirmed this by checking the consortium LV account, and you could see it's a little bit confusing because basically one of the issues with consortium right now is that it doesn't show an exact amount of votes of how many Eden respect points were voted with. So this one says 1K Eden for Tropics. This is the Tropics topic about playing a Agendas minigame called Tropics. And then this is the one for Jitsi, and this also has 1K Eden. I see Tadas raising a hand. Tadas was the person who voted, and I was able to find this out how much Tadas voted for. He voted for Jitsi more than the other one. But yeah, Tadas, if you want to go ahead and explain.
Yeah, first I saw the Jitsi proposal, then I saw the Tropics one. But as I understand, if we choose the Tropics proposal, then we can use the Tropics process to decide if we want to discuss and test Jitsi. So I don't mind, if that's the case, I don't mind doing the Tropics.
Okay, well, I mean, it's kind of up to you if you want to just make a quick decision, because right now, as it stands, you voted with, I believe, 1,423 respect points for the Jitsi. As you can see, it's a little confusing because you have to see the poll key, but you can see the poll key is the same for this one. And then you voted for 300 less respect points for the Tropic. So, Tadas, if you want to just make a quick decision on what you prefer, then feel free. You're the only person who voted here. If anybody else wants to vote now or in the future, then you can. But for now, Tadas, it's basically up to you. You're the only person who voted. So if by default, we'll discuss Jitsi first. We can test it out. I've been testing it out, and we spoke about that. But if you want to do the Tropics, then we can. And for anybody who's not familiar, I shared it in the beginning. But yeah, Tadas is right, basically. Like, Tropics is this other kind of cagendas minigame where we can use Notion and share topics. And the way that that is set up is in Notion right now. We have the Notion database where you could, it's basically a one-person, one-vote system currently, if people have at least one respect. And then we could vote on topics. And we also talked last week about setting up a private Telegram group for this, and then also inviting everybody to Notion too, so I can do that so anybody can propose a topic there. I think Jorge, Jorge entered the waiting room. Jorge had his hand up, so I guess Jorge got kicked out for a second. And I see Space Rainbow Joe says, have to leave, guys, thanks, with a thank you kind of hand. So thank you very much, Joe. If you're out there watching, Joe's doing great work. And yeah, Tadas, do you have any preference on what we do here? You're the voter, so if you want to pick Jitsi first, or if you want to just go to Tropics, then we do one person, one vote, then we can do that either way. I have not yet created a Slido poll for Tropics, so that would take me a little bit of time. Although I could just, it's basically the same as last week, so I could just reuse the same poll, so it won't take very long.
Yeah, so I would prefer to test Jitsi.
Okay.
I think that would be useful. Okay,
sounds good. Thanks, Tadas, for making a quick decision, and I think that's very useful too. Yeah, Tadas largely inspired the proposal. We're not, I don't know, it was inspired partially by Matt from the fractally group, and also Sebastian and several other people who talked about some potential privacy issues with Zoom, and then also just see, it seems like it might be a better solution. So we could discuss Tropics after Jitsi then, and from Tropics we could get into Optimism or more about any of the other topics on the list. And if anybody else wants to add any topics here, then feel free. As I said last week, I added a few people in their emails over there and stuff, so feel free to send me your email, and I'm also going to start that Telegram group. But first we'll discuss Jitsi, and then if we have more time after discussing Jitsi, then we'll get into the Tropics game. And then also yeah, I see Perry's raising his hand, so that's a convenient because I currently forgot what I was going to say. So I'll pass it over to Perry, and then we'll go into the Jitsi topic. Perry?
I have a Notion account, and I have my own personal private Notion, and I've got the Eden on EOS Notion, all attached to my account. I would love it if I had the Eden, all your stuff, all our stuff that you're creating on that's available on that same account where I'm just dropping down and I'm entering a new Notion space. How does that, how can that be? How can we create that?
Yeah, so you can do it easily. Basically, if you provide me with the same email, you can DM me or wherever you want to send it to me. Then I can invite you. This is the Eden Creators Notion space. It's at notion.so/Eden Creators/whatever. So this is one I set up. Could also do specifically one for Eden Fractal. We tried that, but I just been working at Eden Creators lately. And then if you look in the top left corner of Notion, there's like a little thing like where you can open things up, and then you can click over here, and then that shows you all the different things that you're like invited as a guest to or something like that. So basically you'd have the Eden on EOS community that Gabriel started up here, and you'd also have Eden creators, and you could switch between both of them.
Okay, I would encourage you to create either one of those notions that leads to all your stuff. That's probably the best. Or just get all of us to sign up, just as you suggested to me, to sign up to all of your stuff, and so that we easily know where everything is, right? For example, where's the link to consortium? Where's the link to all this stuff? You're on the way here. You just need to get us on board. So yeah, I think that's great. I'm going to send you my email address.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very, very much. And yeah, that's one of the goals here. So part of the goal here with the topics was just to figure out a better way to solve a problem of how we organize our topics. Some people had mentioned in previous weeks that they like it when like there's topics that they could vote on in advance, and sometimes the topics are last minute. But this way we could just have all the topics, and if we want to discuss 5 topics or 3 topics or 1 topic or whatever, we can have a way to vote on it and organize it, along with all the features of Notion, like being able to put pictures in and links and stuff like that. But yeah, also a large part of this plan too is that we could use Notion in much more ways than just the topics. And this is actually in the Eden Fractal Notion. There's like a page for Eden Fractal here, which is also still early in development. All it really has is the topics, and then it also has a link to the website. I started making like a little like community member center, which is maybe where people can pull up profiles, and then we can add things like we can add a new page, for example, for you mentioned like welcome materials or something like that, and then you could have like consortium link and stuff. And so for sure we can build that here. I see Jorge said, I still advocate to prevent us from using names that diverge from the standard meaning. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jorge. If you want to share, then feel free. We also agreed to discuss the Jitsi topic too, so we should get back to that, but I did just want to respond to Perry there. So yeah, Perry, basically, thanks for sending your email. If anybody else wants to as well, then I encourage you to do so, and then we can build out this site together. People can have full access to it, and then we can work out the best way to cooperate. We can improve it. This is kind of a first draft, but I'm planning that we can cooperate a lot better here. With that, thanks, Perry. And I think it's probably best if we come back to this, but Jorge, if you want to just explain what you meant there, because I'm not sure what you meant, and then we can head into Jitsi after that. Jorge, welcome back, by the way. I know you raised your hand before and you wanted to share something. Oh, you're saying tropics? Sounds like tropics, but means something really different. Okay, yeah, well, feel free again if you want to say it. I mean, I shared last week, I thought it was a fun way to do it, and it also makes it so we can do more art, and I was thinking all sorts of ways that we could have like fun art for it and stuff. I mean, it's up to the community too. If you want to go with something different, my vote is for tropics for sure. But that's another discussion that we can have perhaps after we try out Jitsi, and happy to hear everybody's suggestions. Oh, I see Jorge is on camera now and unmuted. So Jorge, if you want to share more of your thoughts here, then you're very welcome.
Yeah, I think that in order to be more appealing to a bigger audience, we need to not diverge from familiarity too much. I do believe that we can find a name that is appealing, that is not, it's similar to topics, but not something that means something radically different, because then we will like get into this little step that makes us look weird, especially for someone who already has several prerequisites to get into fractal democracy, like getting into fractalgram and then getting into EOS and then knowing the whole fractal process. So I think the least strange terms that we add, the best. And yeah, that's pretty much in order to be more palatable to a bigger audience. Thank you.
Okay.
I know what it means, and I can agree with it. Here's the thing, the main thing you're looking at. The traction is if it's easily understandable by anyone that sees it. Maybe it's a little boring and too mainstream or too by the book. At the same time, there's something to be said for having these sort of weird names when you have a close community that wants to differentiate itself. Maybe there can be a transition, have two names in there, something that's obvious to what to expect. But again, yeah, I mean, I'm never one to stop the creative process, but I absolutely know what Jorge means.
All right. Thank you very much, Marco and Jorge, for sharing your thoughts. I see Perry has his hands up, and I know Tadas wasn't super motivated to get into Jitsi right away, so I suppose we can discuss this a bit longer. And yeah, I also just want to respond to a couple more reasons. I shared it last week when we had the conversation too. Appreciate you guys' feedback. Tropics, it is quite similar to topics, so it's not like a totally different word. And you know, like cagendas, for example, it's similar to agendas, but it's a way to make it more fun. And I think that that's a really important part of the experience, that we're sharing games that are fun, and enjoyable, and also it does make it fractal. Topics doesn't have like a fractal component to the word itself, but tropics are a very fractal place as well, and it also allows more artful sharing too. So that's my advocacy for tropics. I can go more in detail, but I just wanted to throw those in there too, just in support of the name tropics. But happy to hear Jorge and Marco's thoughts here, and happy to hear everybody else's thoughts too. I still think we should get back to the Jitsi soon, but I see Perry has his hand up. So first I'll pass it over to Perry, and Perry, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
Just real quick, in support of what Jorge has said, and I completely understand. You've got on one side, Dan, you want to make it unique and artful, and you know there's a real marketing argument for that for sure. But there's also the translation aspect. So this is an English group for sure, but many people read in another language and understand from another language, and they may be reading and understanding at a distance. Let's say, you know, they may be reading an article somewhere or reading a post somewhere, and if they read tropics, they won't quite understand. But if they read topics, they may. So I think there may be a good argument for making it literal for the translatability of it. So that's all. That's my comment.
Great point. Thank you very much, Perry. I suppose I'll just add just one more reply before we head in. But yeah, I really appreciate all the thoughts. And yeah, so for one thing, I'll just separate, you know, the system, the mechanism design of how we actually propose topics. This can work independently of any name. I just figured over the past couple months, or past few months, I've just been figuring out the best way to organize topics for meetings in Notion. And so this same system could use any, you know, brand, and it could also be rebranded too. So if somebody else wanted to call it something totally different, then they could, and anybody could. I just figured it was fun to make topics here. And I also think that, you know, what's most important is for our community too. So right now we don't have like people speaking different languages. So I think it makes it the most fun for English speakers in tropics, but also happy to hear other suggestions, and perhaps this is also something we could vote on in the future or something like that. But just throwing some ideas. I see Eric has his hand raised, so I'll pass it over to Eric now.
So I've done lots of marketing, and we always come up with names. That's a big thing you do. And the one thing I've learned is it doesn't really matter what you call it at the beginning. I mean, think of every version of anything, they have a code name, usually internal. I mean, this hasn't even been launched yet. So the biggest thing you do is you go talk to people. What do you think? So I would just say take our own feelings about it, because we're notoriously bad of assuming what we like is what everybody else likes, and we must be right. You know, okay, fun, all right, well, you just never know. So we always test names, and you don't need a big test group either. Just ask. So my recommendation doesn't really matter right now, but once you get it a little more fine-tuned, bring in people and ask them. That's it.
Excellent point. Thank you very much, Eric. And yeah, so for sure, we could always, you know, have it for a week or a month or whatever, and always decide to change it. It's flexible in that way. One other thing I'll add too, I see Jorge, your mic is off again. You're back on. Do you want to add something here, Jorge?
Yeah, I wanted to say that if you go to South America and to poorly developed places, that's the exact way many people think. Let's do this small change now, and if we want, we will be able to change it later. But then it happens that, for example, a house. Let's make a house with these poor foundations, and of course, we will later be able to change them or make them bigger. But then all of a sudden, you have a second floor on that house, and you will be unable to change the whole infrastructure. In the same way, if we do a small change now in a community that is decentralized, then it will be a real challenge, almost impossible to change the whole name, well, the whole name calling, the whole system of words the community is using. So I really, really strongly advocate against deviating from a standard meaning. It's not the use of funny words, it's the deviation of a standard meaning. Tropics means something totally different from topics. So it is, I almost feel a pain in my head, a pain in my brain from this divergence, like having to switch. And another issue here is the fact that we are talking about design and art here and beauty, which is what I think you are aiming to do. And that art is already creating so much friction. You have 9 people in this meeting, and 2 of them, which is 25% of the people, are against it, and the other one is saying it doesn't matter. It's already a compromise. It's already a signal that we should not go in this direction. And by the way, the same applies for other names that we have already implemented, and that makes the onboarding of people a little harder every time, like cagendas and bladendas and fractalien, and it adds a lot of friction at every step.
Thanks for sharing, Jorge. Very interesting points. I see Perry said, I propose a compromise, tropicals. Interesting. And yeah, just to respond to that as well, I agree. We do want to keep it simple, Jorge, for sure. And we don't want to overwhelm people with too much friction or too much confusion in the beginning. And some of the names we come up with, I think that, like, say, for example, Valendas, I think it's a great thing for, people who want to learn the history and so forth. But I think that in general, calling it cagendas is better. It's simpler. It is like a portmanteau, meaning community agendas or consensus agendas, something like that. I think it's an excellent branding name. But I do think we should keep it simple and focus more on certain names that have the most appeal and the most understanding. In that case, something like cagendas makes a lot more sense than Valendas. I think that fractogram is an excellent application name as well, and I think it might make most sense to combine our fractal apps into fractogram under the fractogram brand, even if might have different functionality. But as far as I know, fractogram is like the best app name for what we're doing. So I'd be in support of that, but also for sure we want to keep it as simple as possible. Another thing to consider too is like search engine optimization and branding, that people can find it. So yeah, I'm for sure going for beauty and art, but I'm also going for fun and also just like a more gaming vibe too, because like we want it to be like a playful vibe where communities cooperate playfully and are able to find the game. So if you call it topics, then it'd be difficult to find, whereas tropics, it might also be difficult to find too, so that might not actually help with SEO, but maybe it could help. It is more unique. I'd be curious if anybody has any alternative suggestions or proposals. This is just how I brought forth here. I see Perry says fractogram is different because both fractal and gram are both relevant. That's also true too. I'm a really big fan of the cagendas name, and I was thinking of tropics for like 6 months, and I decided that cagendas made more sense. But then last week, like an hour couple before the meetings, I decided tropics instead of topics, just to make it more fun. And one other thing I'll add too is these have giraffes in there, which are an animal that's very closely related to more equal animals. More equal animals is like a foundational piece of literature that's super inspirational and also very educational. Like it's not widely known around the world. There's a relatively small community around the world, but it's got a lot of things that are really helpful for people. And so the more we can help promote like our roots with more equal animals, I think that's helpful. And Tropics gives us opportunities to promote it with more equal animals in mind. And also Dan Larimer shared the ideas of NVC, or nonviolent communication, from Marshall Rosenberg, which is like an excellent guide, or definitely excellent. It provides excellent wisdom and insights to cooperate more gracefully, to be kinder to people and stuff like that. And the giraffes are kind of like the symbol for that. So that's another reason why I include the giraffes here, and that I like the idea.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, sure, Marco, feel free.
Okay, so take fractalgram and agendas. So I still get them confused, but I don't get fractalgram confused because I learned what fractal is, and I knew what fractal ownership was from aviation. So I already had a preconceived notion, but using the word fractal and then having the gram added to distinguish that amongst the community here. So when I started to hear fractalgram, started to use it or see it, I saw people here rather than people at the Genesis fractal. So that was a real good, I think that's a successful word for here. It didn't dissuade too much from what we're picking up. But the agendas, even now, I know it rhymes with some of the other things, and I don't know. I know what categories are, and I know what agendas are. And the thing is, when I see agendas, I don't see agenda. I don't know if other people are like that, but if they are, then maybe whatever is causing that that disconnection. Even though the word's in there, it's just not linking somewhere. Now, the tropics is a nice, good example because I see the excitement of how people envision a tropic and how it's got a lot of stuff, but a lot of that stuff has a certain feel to it. And it's a decent play on words because of how creative, inspirational it is. And it does sound like topics, but I definitely do not hear topics when I see tropics. And maybe I will, and maybe if we had these words side by side in introduction before it's getting out after a while, it'll catch on pretty quick with onboarding. But I think maybe test the words first, see how fast they connect. Because I mean, we've been using cagendas forever, and I still don't feel it the way for fractal or even the tropics. So yeah, onboarding becomes an issue. As Eric said, it doesn't matter too much in the beginning. I think the intent is to allow the word to foster creativity. And if that's it, then maybe test it, because what doesn't help creativity is confusion that limits action or activity. Confusion that inspires is fine, but confusion that inhibits action, I don't know. It's kind of like if you get distracted, see a nice horizon or scenery, you kind of gravitate that way. But if you see something that's just slows you down in every way and just wastes time, I don't know. That's how I kind of feel about a cagenda. So maybe to vote on each one, see how effective they are, see how creative they are, if that's the intent. But this is probably a pretty good thing, because the more efficient we can become and more targeted what we're trying to do, I think it's a good deal. It's something very simple to do. Again, I'll say the tropics artwork and stuff like that. I feel inspired by what you guys have done there. At the same time,
I just realized I was muted. Was that the last part of your sentence, Marco? Or do you want anything else?
I just left it at the same time. Tropics didn't remind me of topics. So I was inspired, but at the same time, I just left it blank there. I didn't know what we were doing. I was just excited about what we were doing because of the inspiration. So with Fractalgram, I see the community, I see the group. I believe that's the intent. With agendas, is supposed to introduce a consortium and the agenda of the day. That's not effective for me. With tropics, I feel inspired, but at the same time, I don't see the word topic in there as I do with agenda. Even though it's there and I see it, I don't feel it, but there's more inspiration in tropics than there is in agenda, so it may work. Does it make more sense?
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks so much, Marco, for all the feedback, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jorge and Eric and Perry. Really interesting points. So yeah, to respond to some of that, so cagendas, I appreciate the feedback, and we have been doing it for like 35 weeks or so now, so we have been doing it for a while. Sorry to hear that it hasn't been inspiring you a huge amount yet, or you haven't seen the connection as much, but I'm glad that you've been inspired by tropics. But overall, very helpful feedback, and yeah, I'm very happy to help market and promote it. I see Marco's going with the smiling. a smiling sunglass face guy. So glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, I'm very happy to help market it and promote it in the best interest of the community. And then another thing is too, like with this Notion website, several people like Perry and Tadas have talked about how we could use things like Jorge has also been a big advocate of this too, about how we could use like our tools to come to consensus about things like websites. So for example, this Notion website that I put together pretty quickly, maybe we could have some sort of process where we are voting on this to determine if we want tropics or whatever else. Tropics could be for different community as well too. If a community wants to pick a different one, I'd ask that everybody who has a different suggestion. I see Perry did tropicals in there. We can also just call it Eden Fractal Topics, but just have it where there's still the imagery of the tropics. Maybe that's another way to do a compromise. And Jorge mentioned there's 2 people, maybe 3 people who didn't really like it that much or had mixed feelings about it. So at some point we could also do a poll with more consensus too, to hear what everybody thinks. Or if you want to jump in, then feel free. But we also should get into the Jitsi topic because that had the most votes. And yeah, perhaps like respect trees or different tools that we're using here can help with that. And also, these are all kind of early brands. So for example, cagendas, it's been around for a while, but I haven't had the chance to promote it as much as I'd like. So right now there's like a couple like imagery and it has like a definition that I kind of put together quickly, but when we have more resources to put into these, and I'll also introduce the brand in more fullness, and then just happy to hear what everybody thinks. And yeah, if you guys want to propose a topic for me to change that or propose something, that I'm then happy to hear it. Or of course, I'm just taking the initiative to start this Notion. If anyone wants to organize it and propose their own sort of game or however you want to call it for topics, and everybody's welcome to do so as well. And I'll take this feedback into account and then figure out the best way to do so going forward, and looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts. I think with that, if there's a moment of silence or a few, then I can probably move on to the Jitsi topic because we're about a half hour through, and that's a topic that Tadas made the quick decision about and has the most votes on cagendas. So going forward with the rules of cagendas, I think it makes the most sense to switch over to Jitsi. And yeah, if anybody else has any last thoughts about it, then I feel free to jump in. But I think this has been super helpful feedback session and super helpful discussion so far. And our branding is really important too. So appreciate it. Oh, also there's some comments I forgot to mention. Perry wrote he puts fungus as our mascot, and then he shared a link as well, which I opened up and I thought it was pretty funny. I just lost it for a second, so I'll bring it up in a moment. And then he said geographic appropriation to use tropics. So sorry, I didn't mean to appropriate the tropics at all. I just having some fun with it. And he said giraffes don't live in the tropics, which is a good point. I don't think giraffes really live in the tropics, but I thought that was kind of fun. And I've been playing around with these AI arts, so I figured it was kind of a cool artwork. Also, there's like pink flowers and stuff. That's not quite what the tropics live like. So it was more so having fun with it, really. And fractogram makes sense. Clarity, what we're doing is one of our biggest challenges. Yeah, we want to be very clear what we're doing. So this has been a great conversation so far. And I was just meaning to pull up this link that Perry shared about quantification of fractal nature of mycelial aggregation in Aspergillus submerged cultures. Might have mispronounced some of those, but this is an interesting study, or I don't know if it's interesting, it just seems interesting. But Perry shared it as a vote for fungus as their mascot. So I encourage everybody to share like things on their mind if they have other suggestions for the best way to brand. And then maybe going more with the fractal nature. That's what I was aiming to do with tropics that came to mind. But if you have anything that can be playful and fun, then I'd appreciate it. Or if people want to just go simple, Eden Fractal Topics, that's also something we can discuss. With that, I suppose anybody feels free to jump in, but before we get into a whole nother conversation about tropics, maybe I'll just go in. Although I see Jorge got unmuted. So Jorge, do you want to share anything more before we go on to Jitsi?
Yeah, specifically to reiterate, I'm all in for the variety of vocabulary, but not the divergence of meaning. So if we don't want to use topics, we can use themes, matter, subject matter, issue, point, argument, motive, whatever. The English vocabulary is immense. Just please don't diverge from standard meaning. And also, and this is my personal view, we should strive to project an image of being actually a serious endeavor. We don't want to appear as children or want to be children because we are adults. So I this is personal. This is my personal opinion. I do see those adults that dress and behave as children as a form of decadence. So if we want to attract serious people, I think we should strive to look very professional and very serious. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Jorge. Really appreciate all of the insights and feedback. I'll also just say, in defense of fun and art, adults and professionals can certainly have fun and use art and so forth. So we can be very serious and working together. I'm been very impressed with many of our recent meetings. Like, we've had a very high quality of conversation. And I like what you said one of the times, and I was listening to one of the recent Eden on EOS calls, Jorge, where you're saying that there's a very high ratio of signal to noise. I've been listening back to some of our recent meetings, and I think regardless of the branding we have here, like, we can still get a lot of amazing work done together. But yeah, great points. Happy to discuss this more. But also, maybe I'll keep my responses to a minimum now so we can get into Jitsi as proposed. But I see Eric has a hand raised, so I'll pass it over to Eric now.
Just real simply, a good rule of thumb from a marketing perspective is don't think about what you want with the name, like, oh, let's make it fun. Start with the impact you want to have on the people that will be getting the name for the first time. What do you want them? Do you want them to feel trust? Do you want them to laugh? You know, that's a good guidance, is instead of focusing on the name, focus on the people who will be reading the name.
Excellent point. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, on that note, after all this discussion, Jorge being quite adamant about it, I'm thinking maybe it's best for Eden Fractal to, maybe I'd keep the art here, but we just rename it Eden Fractal Topics for the time being, just to make it simple. And maybe we can update it later. It's very simple to change. I can go back and forth like this. So, and Jorge brought up an interesting point too about themes and stuff. I think topics probably makes the most sense more than themes, but themes could work too, or anything else. If anybody has any other suggestions about that, I do really like the topics brand for going out in the world. And if anybody else wants to discuss this more, we still haven't heard much from, I know Rosemary liked it. I also talked with some friends who liked it too a lot, and they said that it was really fun. So we'll see. I'd be happy to hear more opinions about it too. And I see Jorge got unmuted for right now. I'll just have it at Eden Fractal Topics for now and take Jorge's considerations there, but I might just add Tropics again at some point, or maybe we'll have a vote or something like that. Eric, you still have your hands up and Jorge's unmuted. Any other thoughts about this? Or
just one more quick thought is another tack you could take with name is not what it is, but what you want it to do. What's it for? That's just another way to think when you're naming things. Not what it is, but what's it for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. It could be called coordination or something like that. There's a fun play on words that the Gitcoin and Green Pill community uses sometimes, coordination, like a kind of a nation of coordinators. So coordinators are getting things done or discussing things. That's another angle that we can go about in how we explain and market it. Excellent point, and hope that will be inspiring for everybody and be very happy. Adamant, thank you. I see that's something that Jorge wrote, adamant, thank you, Lal. So yeah, I don't know if adamant's the right word, but I did get the point that Jorge was very strongly in favor of not calling it tropics. So I don't know if adamant's the right word, but adamant might be right. But thank you for sharing. I love to hear very strong opinions. I really love everybody getting engaged and rallying around to figure out the best way forward. So thanks so much for everybody's adamance, if that's a word. I see Perry had his hand up too. Also, I would like to get into Jitsi at some point soon, as I've said a couple times, but happy to discuss this more if everybody's really inspired. Perry, do you want to add anything more on here, or anybody else, or should we move on to Jitsi now?
Just real quick, in support of what Eric said, obviously there's different marketing approaches. One famous example, to use a word that is descriptive, is QuickBooks. So we're all familiar with the company Intuit that creates QuickBooks, and yeah, that kind of says it all, right? They're saving you time to do your books. So the use of, right? So that's one, but that's a word that's relevant, I guess, I suppose. Yeah, so that's just one way to go. That's all.
Okay, very interesting suggestion. Thank you very much, Perry. QuickBooks. And yeah, I hope everybody will think about this, inspire and be inspired. And if anybody wants to discuss this next week or in the Telegram group, feel free to share any suggestions. And we can always change it week to week depending on how, but as we mentioned, it's good to figure this out. So also, I don't know if I said you're welcome to Jorge, but thank you, and you're welcome, of course. And one last thing on this note too is I am working on some C branding, like cagendas, community signals. So that's another idea too, that we could maybe prefix it with the letter C, because that might be a cool kind of initiative. And I have a couple other things that start with C that might be coming out that I'm aiming to release soon too. So that's another thing that might inspire people. If you're going to give some sort of word that starts with a C, maybe that's another way to do it as well, because it kind of has the focus on community, which I think is a really excellent focus for the group. All right, so if anybody has any last thoughts about that, then you can jump in, but I think now is a good time. We only have about 20 minutes left in this cagendas game. It would be good to go over Jitsi, so I suppose I'll go into Jitsi now. And this was the topic that Tadas voted for. So thank you, Tadas, for voting for this, and also for discussing this. I discussed this with Tadas a little bit last weekend, and we discussed this a little bit last weekend. It was on the Tropics or Topics database that I shared last week, and there's also a bunch of chats too. I actually probably should have opened this up in the chat, but if you go to t.me/Eden Fractal, it started, I guess, last Monday or last Tuesday. I think it was Jorge. Jorge first forwarded a chat from or a message from the Fractally chat from Matt. Matt is an outstanding engineer, and he's was big in the Genesis Fractal, and he talks about how on July 2023 the Zoom terms of service explicitly changed to explicitly allow training on user content with no opt-out, which is kind of a privacy concern. It's probably a big privacy concern if they're training AI on our videos and what we say and stuff like that. This was the message that Jorge forwarded from Matt, and so Matt suggested to those of you still conducting meetings on Zoom, please make sure that your users are made explicitly aware of the new terms of service. Of course, corporate terms of service, they can be super long and it can be difficult to understand. So I really appreciate Matt sharing that, as well as Jorge sharing this with us as well. And then there was a really interesting discussion too. Noam asked about switching to Google Meet, or if it might be worse or better. Jorge suggested we could do video calls in Telegram, and there'd be a challenge in randomization. And Noam said that would be easier. We could do spreadsheets. And there was a very interesting discussion. I also shared a bunch of thoughts too. I've been thinking of this a lot, and I shared some thoughts about comparing Zoom to Google Meet to Telegram and different features in terms of both functionality and what the application can do, and then also in terms of what how private it is, all the different features that we might want to have or that we do want to have. I also mentioned the next version of the web app that Vlad is building too. I'm kind of just skipping around, but I'll just share the link here too, because this is a pretty detailed message that I shared in response there. Oh, actually, it was 2 messages. But yeah, basically I was asking, because I know that Vlad's building that, and WebRTC is a tool that's open source. He's planning to build this in the next version of the Eden Fractal tool, where people can have one app basically, where they could do voting and also video calls and everything like that. The Fractally team was also working on this too. And so it's a very interesting discussion. This weekend I talked with Tadas about this to figure out the next best steps. And Tadas mentioned that he thought it'd be a good idea for us to test out Jitsi. So Jitsi is an app. It's a free and open source tool for video conferencing. It's quite similar to Zoom in terms of the feature that it provides. You can learn more about it at jitsi.org. It's more secure, or at least it has the potential to be more secure. And I think generally it is more secure because you can self-host it, or you can use the hosted service at meet.jit.c. And it's also very flexible because open source, you can configure it as you want. It might take some technical know-how to be able to do it as well as you can. But you can also just use the app at meet.jitsi, and it's very simple to use. I tested it at the Eden Town Hall this week. I think I had this window open where Rosemary announced that we tested it with Eric and Lisa for about a half hour or so, and I also tested it again this morning with Rosemary, and it works quite well. So we could actually test it out right now if you're all up for it. I think that'd be a good idea. Or if anybody has questions and want to discuss it, there's a lot more. I listened to a podcast with the founder this week and got a better understanding of it. I'd heard Sebastian and several other people talking about it, and Sebastian's been a big supporter of it, and also the Fractally team a few years ago when they were first building Eden on EOS, or Eden OS rather, they were talking about how to use it. So I've been looking around. I encourage people to look at it. I shared the link, and you can go to jitsi.org. You can check out they have YouTube videos.
Will you share it on the Telegram live chat?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Noam. I'll share that in the Telegram live chat, and I forgot about that, so I appreciate the reminder, and everybody can check it there. I also see Perry wrote another comment about, maybe I'll just read it out real quick. He said, a qualification they add to the use of a descriptive word as a brand name is if you use an adjective, like my example, QuickBooks, you have marketing people to let people know exactly what it refers to. So just wanted to put that in there, and we can come back to that afterwards. But before we forgot, that's an interesting comment. And thank you, Perry, for sharing about the naming of topics or whatever we call it. And then, yeah, I'm sharing this in the Eden Fractal live chat right now. I'm having difficulty finding it, so I'll just put it in the general chat where I'm at right now, and you can find jitsi.org there. And then the other site that is relevant here is meet.jit.c. So this is, there's a company called 8x8, which is like the company that is developing primarily the open source software for Jitsi, and they also host a hosted service. So rather than having to go to GitHub and then deploy the code, that's an option. And of course, you can check out the GitHub and see, I think it's quite a popular library. They've been working on it for like 10 years or so, and you can learn. It has 6.3 thousand forks for the Jitsi Meet service and stuff like that. So it's possible for somebody in the community to run this so that we could have more private video calls, as well as all the features or many of the features of Zoom, but run it on our own, and we can configure it how we want. Or an option that we could test it out right now very quickly and easily, which I've used before, is meet.jit.c, which the way this works is it's very simple. Anybody can do it for free.
Okay, I just went, can you start a meeting so we can try joining it and see how many of us can get over?
Yes, I think that's
in parallel.
I think that's the best option. First, I'll just finish presenting and see if anybody has any questions or comments before we head into the private or into a Jitsi room. But yeah, I think that's the best thing that we can do. Just test it. From what I've tried, it works quite well, and I can kind of show you. There's a couple of things I don't totally understand yet, and so there's things I want to figure out, because we might want to move to this next week or in future weeks. But there are some things that I have like a to-do list of features to check that I haven't yet figured out how to master or figure out how to get it working with parity to Zoom. But overall, it seems like it can do it. So I want to test it, and I think now would be a great time to test it with everyone here if everybody's up for it. And we could do it very quickly. I'll just create a group and invite everybody. I'll share it in the chat so everybody can join there, and we could probably just stay in Zoom if that works. I haven't tested it alongside Zoom, but hopefully it'll work. We could just start it alongside Zoom, and we just mute ourselves on Zoom and then meet up in Jitsi and then see how that works and test it out.
Then, please post it on live chat as well, because anytime I switch to a different app on Zoom from my Android apps, the Zoom gets disconnected. So
okay,
I can't use the Zoom link to switch to Jitsi without getting disconnected from Zoom.
Okay,
so please post it on the Telegram chat. Yes,
I will do that. And Tadas already posted the general links to meet.jitsi and jitsi.org, so you can find those there. And then if everybody's up for it, first I see Perry has his hands up and maybe has any comments first that we can address those. But if everybody's up for it, then I'll just go create a new Jitsi meeting, and then I'll share the link to the Jitsi meeting in the live chat as well as maybe the general chat, so Noam and everybody else can access it from there. With that, I'll pass it over to Perry. If you have questions or comments, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about Jitsi.
Well, I dropped a message in the chat, but I think it's being answered by Tadas. I'm reading that right now, but I'm curious to know why you feel Zoom is not working. I have my own issues with Zoom, but I'm curious to know what motivates you to look elsewhere.
Thanks, Perry. So there's a few different reasons. So one, Tadas shared the link to the chat and t.me/Eden Fractal. And Tadas also wrote, and a general concern for privacy and closed source. So yeah, I'm in agreement with those. I recommend everybody check out those and t.me/Eden Fractal, and you scroll up a little bit, or just find Tadas's link. I can also share it again in the general live chat so people can see it. Maybe I'll just copy and paste that real quick into the live chat. So I recommend everybody to read that. There are some pretty serious privacy concerns, I think, with the fact that AI is very powerful. So if Zoom is like harvesting data with AI from everything we say and everything we do, I don't know, that could get weird, like with deepfakes or all sorts of weird stuff. I don't know. In general, corporations have very misaligned interests from people in many cases. So there's been many situations where large corporations like Facebook or Google have been found to not do great things with people's data. I watched like what's it called, The Social Dilemma a while ago. That's a documentary which talks about a lot of concerns there. So there's that. Privacy and general like hygiene, for data hygiene, good to keep stuff more private if you can. And then also independence. So Zoom is closed source, where thank you for the claps, Jorge, and thumbs up to Tadas. Glad. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people agree with here. The more independent we can be and the more private we can be. The general, we're here to help empower each other, and that can help us do so. Independence, too. Right now, if Zoom wanted, Zoom charges me like $20 a month or something like that. So that's just a cost that I don't necessarily need to pay to Zoom. So I could potentially save some expense there. Funding is important. and being able to trim expenses would be nice. And then also independence, Zoom, all corporations, they could potentially decide to cut off coverage for whatever reason if their board of directors decides whatever they have. So it's independence, having our own infrastructure that we can use. And then also another thing too is screen sharing too. Like right now I feel a little bit sketched out that I give screen sharing permissions to Zoom, and I'm kind of trusting Zoom not to abuse that, because I could technically use that at different times. But another nice thing about Jitsi is that it's hosted in a browser. So you can set more strict permissions where you're giving permissions to the browser, and the browser only gives permissions to Jitsi at certain times, as opposed to giving Zoom access to share your screen whenever you have it open. So that's another reason. I could probably think of some more, and I've been interested in this, for the past couple of years since the Fractally team started talking about WebRTC, and they talked about Jitsi then. And now with that message from Matt and that discussion I had with Tadas and that back and forth from Jorge and Noam, everybody, that inspired me to think that this is a really good time to think about it. And then when I heard about Jitsi, at first I was like, I don't know if I want to work as well as Jitsi, but then I actually tried it out, and it's actually really good. Like, they've been building for 10 years, and it can do most of the things that Zoom does. In fact, some things it does better too. Like, you can easily share multiple screens on there, and you can like switch between different views. When we tested, you guys can all see, or you all can see rather. And so those are some benefits.
We don't have much time left. Let's go ahead and test it. All I'm seeing is linked to the Jitsi site. I want a link to a Jitsi meeting that we can join.
Okay, sounds great. I'm definitely up for that. If anybody else has any other comments or questions before we head into the Jitsi test room, then feel free to ask. I do want to give the opportunity. I don't want to rush anybody into it if they're not sure about it and they want to ask about it. But I'm with Noam. I think it's a great idea to test it before people have to start going. So does anybody else have any questions or comments before we get going into the Jitsi room? And does that sound good, everybody?
I'll just say that what you've just told us as to what motivation is huge. I super align with what you just said, and I'm curious to hear from Tadas at one point if it offers more APIs and more programmability. That's all.
Let's do it after the test, okay?
No one really wants to get into it, and Tadas gives a thumbs up too. Sounds
Yes.
good. Good with everybody? Sounds good? Thumbs ups? All right.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, I'll just also briefly comment on that too. We got a thumbs up from Perry. Thank you. I think it is a lot more programmable because it's all open source. So unlike Zoom, you can actually interact with the code and so forth. And also working in a browser, users don't have to install anything. So that's really nice. Although there is a Jitsi app too. So perhaps first I'll just share like a little tutorial. I know I just stopped sharing my screen, but maybe I'll just do it real quick again.
I already downloaded the app, but I don't know what to do with it.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll show you the link, and then you just gotta click the link basically. If anybody wants to start meetings in general, you just go to meet.jitsi.com or meet.jits.c, and then you just type in something to title it. You don't want to type something like room or something, because then people will find it. But it's kind of just anybody can join. There's ways you can make moderations. So I'm gonna create one. I'm gonna call it like Eden Fractal 1 or something like that. I'm gonna use the Brave browser because in my experience it hasn't worked well. I haven't tested in Safari, which I'm in right now, but in Brave it's worked well. So I'm gonna do that. There's also options too, if we do want to look into it, about how we can use Jitsi as a service. There's lots of different things we can grow with it. But as Noam said, it seems like everybody's up for trying it. We got some thumbs up. So I'll stop my screen share, and then I'm just gonna start it in Brave, and then I encourage everybody to just mute yourself, I think, in Zoom. We can stay in Zoom probably. Unless you want to leave Zoom, you can. But I figure we can keep Zoom open in case we have any issues or something like that.
Yeah, the idea is to keep Zoom open so you can give people instructions if they're messed up.
Yep. Great point. So I just started the Jitsi room. I'm the only one in there right now, and I'm sharing a link in the live chat of Telegram, in the general chat of Telegram, and also I'll share it in the Zoom chat as well. Maybe I won't share it in the Zoom chat. I feel like Zoom might be like, what's going on here? If I do that. Oh, they might be thinking that anyway. So the link is now there. I think anybody should be able to join. And right now, just me so far.
Where do you post it?
It's in the Telegram chat, in the live chat. Oh. I'm going to mute myself in Zoom so there's no audio going in two places here. But yeah, basically the link is in the Telegram chat. It's general or live chat. I'll also try sharing the screen in Zoom too, so Zoom can see it in this recording. If anybody in Zoom is having any issues, please let us know. Right now we have 6 people there, and it looks like some people haven't made it there yet. If you don't want to join, that's okay too, but we're
I'm
testing it out.
in, but I can't hear anybody, and I can't talk. It looks like I'm muted.
Okay.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Barry finally can't get up. Okay. So Noam, you have a mute button right next to you. So if you go to the bottom of it, you might be able to unmute yourself. That might be your solution.
It's grayed out. I can't unmute myself.
Okay. You might want to also try giving permissions to your browser. You can see I'm still sharing my screen right now in Zoom. And if you go to the top left corner, there should be like a share browser or like share video access to your browser. That should do it.
Where would that be exactly?
Somebody's phone is ringing right now. Okay, so that would be in the top left corner. I'm still showing my screen right now. I don't see it because I already gave access, but in the top left corner here, usually with most browsers, actually in my browser, it's over here. So there's a little thing that says camera and microphone allowed. So I would check to see if that setting is allowed. Also, if you go down to the audio settings and you click on this section over here, then you can see all the different audio settings. You might need to. It looks like so far most people have made it. If you'd like, I can give like a walkthrough, but we are hearing some background noise, I think, from Perry right now in Zoom, or in Jitsi rather. I'm going to try muting Perry here. Okay, so muting Perry on Jitsi was helpful. And also I just realized okay. Thank you for being here, Eric, and I hope you have a good day, and I hope it goes well. Thank you. Okay, cool. I mean, cool regarding Jitsi, rather. It seems like it's working pretty well overall. If anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to ask. I see Perry still hasn't gotten his video on there, and maybe Jorge's still having an issue too. Rosemary's still in the Zoom room, but I know she's already tested too, so actually she's here as well too. Does anybody have a question or comments? If y'all want, I can give a little. Oh, maybe I'll mute myself.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Oh, I actually should record this too. Yes.
Okay, let me see.
Recording is on.
Wow, I can record too.
Yeah, anybody can record. It's a bit of a mess. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, anybody can record. Right now, I don't know how, there's a moderation feature, but everyone can do everything basically. So, and there's also a bunch of cool features too. Like if you explore, there's a way to share a video, or you can do like you could do a whiteboard we were trying out where you could like draw stuff, which is pretty cool. So it does have a lot of cool features here. And there's also breakout rooms too, as another thing as well that we can do. Which is fun, and then you can like drag over the side. You could switch between that side view and the tile view, and so forth. I can give more work there if anybody wants. I've gotten pretty familiar with most of the features, but it's pretty similar to Zoom overall.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I tried to record, but then it got me into a different screen and I couldn't get back, so I'll have to figure that out. Has anybody figured out if the chat is persistent across sessions?
I have not yet tested it, where actually I don't think it is persistent. From my experience, I think it deletes. Although actually I'm not totally sure. But I think it's not persistent. So if we do want to use this chat, we probably should save it if we want to have it saved. I see Rosemary would like to speak. Rosemary, feel free to. We haven't.
No.
You say no or hello?
Mm-mm.
Okay, cool. Well, nice to hear from you. Hope you're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You guys hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
There was something there that said chat and polls, or apparently there's polls here.
Yep, I'm putting up a poll right now, just kind of like a random poll where, oops, my window's moving a bit right now. I just wrote a poll here, And now I'm sending it. Oh, wow, do we have polls? Yes, we do. Tadas put up a poll. Everybody can vote yes or no. And I also put, what does everyone think of Jitsi? I meant to write think of Jitsi, but I misspelled it. So, and I put a little couple emojis here that might not be what you think about Jitsi, but I just put it up really quickly.
How can I change my background?
If you go into the bottom right corner where it says more actions, you can see, I'm still, I think most people left Zoom by now. But if you go to the bottom right corner, maybe I can share my screen actually, but that might be confusing in meta. Basically, if you go to the bottom right corner near where it says leave the meeting with the red thing, there's a more actions button. And then if you click that more actions button, then there's a select background button, the sixth option up.
Thank you.
And there's also some fun features. So you can raise your hand just like in Zoom. And that shows nicely. And then you can also do emojis. And there's also sounds for emojis too. You can turn them off, but you can have like, yeah, so see when I say funny stuff or if anyone wants to cheer or anything like that, anybody can do that and show them in the face. So it's quite like sophisticated software. There we go. Somebody surprised here. So, and then another feature too.
Okay, and it doesn't disconnect when I switch to a different app.
Okay.
So that's better than Zoom, definitely. I'm going to start a poll suggesting that we do next week's session on Jitsi instead of Zoom.
Cool. Sounds good. Looking forward to that. I see Tadas was raising his finger. Oh, Tadas, one more people. So Tadas has a hands up, and then Perry after that, I think. Tadas?
Yes, I think we should try a breakout room feature here.
Good idea. Oh, Jorge in a nice background. I noticed that the Zoom like green screen or like ability, like Jorge's hair is kind of wavy right now, so it's not quite as good as Zoom, but we could figure out some solution for that. It still looks pretty cool and makes Jorge look like a mystic. He feels good.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Okay, cool. So yeah, Tadas made a good suggestion. And Perry, you have your hands up. Perry, you want to share something here?
Yeah, I'm working on Chrome and I'm in the browser and I've given permissions for the video, but it says, and I mouse over the video icon at the bottom, right next to the microphone icon, and it shows me the tooltip stop camera. So my camera's on, the browser has permission, but yet I'm not seeing my video streamed in my little box. I'm just seeing the letter P. Is that?
Yeah, we see P too. We don't see you right now. Did you try clicking the little upward facing like arrow next to the camera that says video settings and then selecting to make sure you're selecting your correct camera interface or camera input rather?
Okay, I hover over that.
Yeah, you have to click it actually. What's up?
I've clicked it and there's nothing. I get nothing.
Okay. Yeah, I
had the same problem when I was in the browser, but as soon as I installed the app and joined from there, everything worked fine.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
I'd like to test and figure out how to do it in a browser as well without having to install the app, but for right now, just it's a working solution.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, it will take some playing around with. There's other things I want to learn as well, and I had some issues.
But I think the breakout rooms suggestion was something we really should try.
Yeah, let's try it out. Just one
other
fun thing I wanted to share that also is a unique feature of this that before I forget, before we go into breakout rooms, there's also GIFs too that are built in, which I don't think Zoom has. So you can click on to pick a GIF, and then you can just like make your picture that GIF, which is like kind of cool and kind of fun for lots of different purposes. If you want to put a dog on a turtle or whatever else, you can search for the GIFs too. So that's a way to be more expressive for the camera.
Backgrounds work?
Backgrounds work. You can see Jorge has a background right now. It's not as good as Zoom, but they do work. But I see Tadas also has a background too, and Duane has a blurred background. There's different levels of blur, which Zoom doesn't have. And then one more thing I wanted to share here too. Well, there's a couple of interesting things like participant stats that you can see, also noise suppression and stuff like that. But one thing I wanted to share too, just for the video recording, anybody who hasn't played around with this yet, there's a tile view where you can go to like view it kind of like a gallery view basically in Zoom. And then there's also, if you click the bottom right corner next to the leave this meeting or more actions, then you can click on like a speaker view. And then from there, you can change the size of the like speaker. Right now I have Duane as a speaker because I clicked on, because Duane was apparently a speaker, but if I want to make Tadas a speaker or me the speaker or Jorge or fellow Jitser who is Noam or Rosemarie or the whiteboard or whatever, then you can do that as well as change the size. So it's really quite, it's designed better than Zoom in many ways, and you can also share multiple screens at the same time, which is really helpful. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to share those because I thought those were some really neat features. And if everybody's ready, then we can go into the breakout rooms and test it out. The way this works is if you go to, and anybody can do this, right, by the way, right now. So there is moderator settings, and I'm going to figure out how to do that because we need to make it like, I guess, defensible in case there's random people who come and we don't want them to be able to do anything. We don't need to have moderation like roles well done. And there's a way to set that up. I still haven't figured that out, but anybody right now I think can do it. But if you go to participants pane, and then on the right side of that, there's like, you can see everybody there. And then there's a button for add breakout room. So I'm going to just do that right now. And then I will create, I guess, 2 breakout rooms is the best way to do it. And then, auto assign to breakout rooms. That's how we get randomized. Oops. And it just sends them there automatically. Hey everyone, sorry for that. I didn't realize it would send you there immediately when I click the button. So now we're in the breakout rooms, and I hope the other room figured it out. Somebody's sharing music.
Cool, and we see who are in the other room.
Yep.
And
Okay, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I went to go download, and it's available on Apple products, but not Mac, not a desktop.
On desktop, you just use the browser, I'm pretty sure. Or if you do like the GitHub and do a self-installer, you can make your own app with it. But I'm just using the browser version in Brave right now.
You're using it in Brave.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna sign out and come back in Brave.
Okay.
Yes. Come back brave.
Come back brave. You need to be braver, Perry.
Yes, I'm weak of heart right now.
Courageous like a lion.
Yes, yes. But I can't. Okay, there it is. There's the lead button.
Okay. Cool. We could also, I don't know if we can move to the other room. Maybe we can crash their breakout room just to see how it is. As Jorge is like getting one with the, Jorge is becoming one with the forest right now. Oh, maybe I should try it too, actually. I have my silly background right now. I'll go up in the sunrise area. For some reason, it's not showing up for me. I picked sunrise in my ed background. Up there it is. Okay, so now we can get more in touch with the fractal nature of the world too. All right.
I will try screen sharing.
Okay. Cool. I'd suggest how about we go back to the main community room too, and we invite the other people there so we can all go back together. I think this has been sufficient tests for the breakout rooms, unless you want to test anything else there, the screen sharing, anything else in this one.
Do you see?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I see it right now in where that's the main focus. It's your Telegram window. And then if I wanted to make it bigger than I could, this is the Eden Fractal Telegram group, t.me/Eden Fractal. And then I can also put in tile view where we see it with all 4 of us on the screen in the same size.
Cool.
Oh, and then we could also do just speaker view too. So if I just like double click on you, then just showing Tadas and so forth. Yeah.
The breakout room seems to be working fine. Should we stop the breakout and get back together?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What do you think? Actually, that was Noam. Yes, Noam. I just heard your message on Zoom, and I think that we should go back to the community room. I agree. That's a good idea. Thank you for sharing. Tadas, was something you wanted to add there? Or you want to go back to the breakout room now and share it?
I will.
I'm going, Jorge, to the community room. I'll see you there. Or actually, to the breakout room number 2, I guess. We could just join that one. Or maybe Perry's in there, but I can maybe assign Perry to... Yeah, I can assign Perry to breakout room 2. So I'll see you there in breakout room 2, Jorge, okay? You should just be able to click on breakout room 2 and hit join. Or maybe we'll just go to the... I don't know. Maybe I can just send them... I'll send all the participants back to the community room to make it simpler. I'll send you there, Chief. See you there.
However, breakout room, you can click join.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just sent everybody back to the community room because I figured we test that sufficiently enough. But anybody, when you're in the breakout rooms, you can click on the participant pane on the bottom, and then you can open it up, and then you can join different breakout rooms or the community room. Right now, I don't think there's any way to restrict that to say who can join. So eventually, that's a feature we want to figure out to make sure people aren't just hopping between them. But for now, it's fine. We trust each other.
We just need to say that it's unacceptable socially. We don't have to restrict it through the software, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, ideally, like in the long term, having that built in the software so that we could choose that. So just to keep it more orderly, that's probably a good idea. But for sure, it's not a big deal right now, and just culturally works.
Mm-hmm.
I see somebody sharing the screen. Was that Tadas or?
Yes, I tested screen sharing a window.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. If anyone wants to test any of the features while we're here, feel free. I tested a
Can
screen share
two
too. Works
people
well.
share screens at the same time?
What's up?
Can we see Dan and Tadas? Can you both share screens at the same time?
Yep.
I think so. Yes.
Yep. It works quite well. From what I see.
That's much better than Zoom. That's great.
Yeah, a lot of the features are better than Zoom. It's pretty amazing.
That would be amazing for productivity.
Yep. So I'm sharing my screen right now. We still have the whiteboard up here too. We could probably remove the whiteboard, I guess. This is Tadas' screen, and right now I have it featured. If you go to tile view, then you can see both of our screens there. And then if you want to take off tile view, tile view is on the bottom of the screen.
Got it.
Yeah, it looks like 4 boxes. And then when you're outside tile view too, you can easily click on anybody's screen or anybody's picture. So like right now in the recording, and
this is really nice. I can see Dan talking and his screen. I can see Tadas and his screen. That's really nice. That Zoom doesn't have that either.
Mm-hmm.
The tile view is really nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty epic software. Congrats. Ooh. Cool. We've got some claps here. I don't know if the recording can hear that, but lots of people.
Who's sending those claps? Is that Rosemary or?
I did one of them, and then if you go to the chat, you can see Tadas did 3 of them. Tadas is really clapping. Tadas likes Jitsi. It sounds like. I'm going to give another round of applause for Jitsi and Tadas for clapping too over here. I like this.
Show the GIFs, the GIFs.
Yeah, GIFs. I shared one of them before. If anybody wants to get creative and have some fun with some GIFs, I encourage you to do so. You can find all of the emoji things when you go to the raise hand, but then hold your mouse over the raise hand and that little upwards pointing arrow. Then you can pick the different emojis which make sounds, and also the GIF button, the Giphy menu, where you can search for GIFs that you like, and then you can pick whatever you want there. So if anyone wants to pick up some fun GIFs, I see Rosemary was hanging out with a cat over there. Also, I'm going to mute myself for a second because I see Space Runner Joe just joined there. I'm going to invite Space Runner Joe to the Jitsi.
I did not expect Jitsi to be that good. Now it seems even better than Zoom.
It doesn't even lag.
Yeah, I think it lagged a little bit when I still had my Zoom open.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Space Rainbow Joe is joining us too. He was in Zoom still, but yeah, I agree. It's like really impressive software. Again, if anybody wants to have fun with some emojis too, I think that it's pretty cool. These emoji features. So if you want to share some love with the world or play some sports over here, that's like Tadas right now talking about Jitsi. Also, it's been over 2 hours. I kind of lost track of time having fun with it. So we could also start to wrap it up whenever. If anybody else has any other thoughts about Jitsi, questions, or comments, now's a good time to test it. I'm happy to stay around longer. Usually we wrap it up about 15 minutes from now, but we can wrap it up now if y'all would like, or if anybody wants to discuss anything else. We also had the tropics, like actually talking about tropics. We could get into that, but it's pretty late, so we could probably save that for next week. Anybody else have anything you want to talk about in general, or any other thoughts or questions about Jitsi?
I'm bummed I can't get the video working.
Yeah, me too, Barry. It'd be great to see you and confirm that you're not a bot at some point with your hat. I mean, you might want to try different browsers, and also if you go into your system settings too, I said before, but like on a Mac at least, there's a system setting to give the permission to your browser. And then once you do that, then when you go to your browser, say for example Brave, then you need to go into the top right corner, top left corner URL bar, and click on that to give it access to your camera microphone. I think you said you had that already, and then you could check if your video settings are on in the bottom corner. And there's also more actions, which has a settings menu where you could check out like video settings as well. So those are like the 4 places that I would suggest that you could potentially troubleshoot this issue. Or maybe you're using a different browser. Like I tried it with Firefox and it didn't work out very well, but Brave worked much better. I think it works with Chromium based browsers best.
I think I've got the browsers worked out, but I definitely have not addressed my computer itself. Yeah. Where in the Mac? Which icon in the Mac settings were you dealing with? Security?
Yeah. If you go to System Preferences in Mac, then you go to, I believe it's Privacy and Security, and then Privacy and Security if you're in the most recently updated version of Mac OS, and then you've got to go to Camera is in there, and then from Camera, then you can select which apps have access to your camera, and you need to add whatever browser you're using there as your to turn that on.
I think you may have solved it. Hang on.
Okay. Cool. Hopefully we can see you here.
Okay.
Hey Joe, glad you could make us and join us on Jitsi.
Yeah, thanks.
Very welcome. Looks like you're enjoying some fractal nature up there with the tree. Very happy to see you.
I gotta put my headphones on. I can't quite hear you.
Okay.
1 minute.
So yeah, if anybody else has any questions or comments about Jitsi, then of course feel free to share. And as our fellow Jitser, Noam mentioned, we could potentially make a proposal to do our meeting for next week in Jitsi. And that's something we could, if we wanted to discuss now, or we could make a proposal on consortium or something like that. I don't know exactly what the best protocol or way to switch it would be. And I still do want to figure out a couple of things, but I think it's ready to go basically. But the only thing is that there are some like a bit of concerns about who can join. So that is the main feature I want to join in. Several people weren't here, but we did have an issue in one of the recent Alien Worlds Fractal meetings where we got like spam attacked basically, where in Zoom, as the host of the Zoom call, I have the ability to admit people, and there was like 3 people who joined and I didn't know them. I thought maybe they were just Alien Worlds community members that I didn't know and I wanted to be welcoming, but I was kind of sketched out by it. And then they turned out to be like a spam attack where they like just kind of like put on stuff that's very like stuff that you wouldn't want to watch or see, and made a lot of noise. And then we had to kick them out. We had to restart our Zoom room and stuff like that. It was very, it wasn't something good. So, Ferry's here. Great to see you. Got it down, Ferry. Great to see you.
So just to give you feedback, my problem was, or rather the solution was exactly what you said at the Mac level, security and privacy. After I gave the browser itself permission, because there's a check there within Brave and Chrome, and then there's a site settings check as well. So all 3 of those had to be open for me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the feedback, Perry. Ooh, I don't know who's over here in the peanut gallery making all these comments. I have to open up the chat to see who's sharing this.
I wonder if I can share a video.
Yeah, it is a feature that it seems like it works pretty well. I was just kind of inspired by Perry's to breakdance a little bit. So maybe I'll breakdance a little bit in celebration of Perry joining it, everybody having it working well. Joe looks like he's having fun here too. Glad you got
Nice
that.
moves, Dan.
Nice moves. That's it. I've been practicing breakdance in a long time, so I wanted to get into it actually for a long time, but not quite as good as that though.
Are there more emojis except the ones that are shown here?
There's just like the 5 or so, and they all have audio. Maybe there's other ways. I don't know. It's extensible with open source. So we could do it, and then the GIF is on the side of that, where you can be much more expressive than just the emojis as well. Oh, here's, for example, some dogs jumping over a jumping rope, something that we all need. We didn't know we needed it. Joe, I know you got your headphones now. If you have any questions or comments about Jitsi, then feel free to ask or share your thoughts.
I hopped on my mobile. Is there? I'm looking in the settings. I know that a lot of these you need to do it on desktop to change things, but are you guys able to change your backgrounds and your images, your profile, and all that stuff?
Yes. So on desktop, it's quite fully featured. Okay. I haven't tested the mobile yet, but on desktop, it might be on mobile too. There's a button when you open it, ... that says more actions on the bottom that gives you the option to change your background and do basically everything you want to do, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to share a video, but I want to turn off its audio so I don't spam you with the music that's going on with the video. Do you know how I turn off the audio in YouTube?
Yeah, if you just open up YouTube, then right on the bottom left corner where there's like your play and stuff, there's a little symbol that looks like a speaker, and you just have to click that, and then it'll put a slash on the speaker, and that turns up the audio. There's also a volume bar too if you want to just have the music on but put it really quietly. Yeah, there's also that feature to share video, which actually I think is easier to share video than in Zoom. So that's nice. And yeah, if anybody else said, fellow Jitser, no, I like that name, fellow Jitser. It's quite catchy. If anybody else has any thoughts or questions or comments at Jitsi, then now's a good time. We can also start to wrap it up too. If you all want to put on some hats or wrap it up how we often do here in Fractal, then I'm ready to do so whenever. Tadas would like to speak though. Yeah, and now would also be a good time if anybody has any last things they want to test. We can also test throughout the week, of course, too, and we want to figure out if we want to start using this next week, I suppose. Tadas?
Yeah, I think Jitsi looks awesome, and I think it's late to pass a proposal using Eden plus Fractal process to use Jitsi, but I don't know if I don't think we need one because there is no rule that we have to use Zoom. So I don't know. Maybe we could use it next week. Yeah, and I have to be going. So thanks for the meeting, everyone.
Yeah, how about making a poll during the week in Telegram to see if we start using Jitsi next week without any further ado?
I think Noam already started one.
Mm-hmm. Just vote on it, please.
This sounds great. Good plans, and yeah, I love this Jitsi. I'm really excited about it. I just realized that I was saying something about that is one concern I have about Jitsi that I want to figure out. I was listening to the founder. I listened to a podcast that the founder had like 6 months ago. Share it if anybody wants to see it. It's quite interesting, quite informative. And he said there's a new feature that allows like a moderator link. And I do think that is important because what I was saying was at the Alien Worlds meeting, there was like that like quite insatiable like event where people like came in and spammed us basically, and I'm able to control that in Zoom, and it was my fault for letting them in. But in Jitsi right now, I don't know if there is any way to like restrict that. So in Zoom, that has a nice feature where a moderator can like kind of protect the community from spam. Whereas here, if anybody sees this link, then they can just find it. Another option too could be, last week we were considering, and we came to the consensus, I think, that we can make a Telegram group that's a more private Telegram group. And right now we don't have any private Telegram groups or ways to communicate. between each other, other than just like PMing each other. So perhaps it might be good to have that system set up. I did actually create the Eden Fractal private Telegram group this morning. I called it Eden Fractal Topics, but I know we had a lot of discussion about that. So maybe I'll just share just the Eden Fractal private Telegram group to everybody here in the chat, and then we can discuss things there. If that sounds good, everybody, because I do want to make sure that we don't have like random people coming in just like crashing the party that we can't stop. And if we do post it in the Eden Fractal Telegram group, then anybody who's a spammer could basically come and click it, and we wouldn't have any way to stop them from joining and doing stuff. But I can figure out the feature. I think I can figure out this week probably about how to turn the moderation feature on. Joe, I see you have your hands up. Anything you want to, or I see Tadas has hands up too. I don't know who had it first. Feel free to go ahead, whichever one went first.
I think Tadas did, and his is official. So
okay. Tadas, do you want to try it?
Okay, well I'll go real quick. So what I was gonna say is maybe for the first few to help prevent with those attacks until you get it dialed in, if you keep the Zoom up and the people you allow them, to enter the Zoom, so you still have that control. But in the Zoom chat, it's just how I came in, and you're like, hey, we're in Jitsi or whatever this is called, right? So then once you vetted them through the Zoom, then you allow them into this, right? Maybe that's a way to deal with it until it's ready. Sorry, Tadas.
Great point. Thank you for sharing. Tadas?
No problem. Yeah, so you see I'm sharing my screen, and I see that I have a Jitsi website open, and just below the input where you input the name of the meeting, you have a book a meeting URL button.
Nice.
Yeah, book a meeting URL in advance where you are the only moderator. I haven't tested this. I don't know how this works, but this might be the way to be the moderator.
I think you found it, Tadas. Thank you very much. Yeah, I knew that feature existed, but I wasn't able to find it so far, but that looks like it. So I'll try that out, and I think that will resolve it. If there are issues, then maybe I'll just change that, or rather, if there are issues, then I'll figure it out, but I'm pretty sure that will work. I was going to say, if there are issues, then I can do what Joe said, hosting the Zoom room as well at the same time, and maybe I'll do that next week just as kind of a transition, but otherwise I think that should work very well, and I'll test it out, and then I'll say yes in that poll as well. Thank you very much to Tadas and Joe. I think we figured that out, and I think that we have feature parity and even more features than Zoom now, as well as all these benefits of independence and open source and cheaper and all these better things that Joe's proven to right now. Joe likes it, I think. And then, yeah, I also just shared the link before we came to consensus about the Eden Fractal private Telegram group. If anyone wants to join that, there could be a different one too, but I just put it together. That was a discussion we had last week about the Eden Fractal Topics or Tropics. I also wanted to kind of defend it against random people voting in our topics. And right now, I think eventually I can use like signals or respect trees or voting with the respect trees, something like that. But right now I just put that up. So if anyone wants to join there, then we have like a private way to communicate too. We can also discuss that more, but that is in the Jitsi chat. So I encourage everybody to join there. But anyway, I think we can probably wrap it up. If anybody else has any other thoughts, I see Tadas said he had to go. See you. Thanks so much, Tadas. Does anybody else have any other thoughts or comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's say go Eden Fractal.
Excellent.
I will say I'm excited to vote positively for this next week. Yeah, it looks rich, and it's going to give us for privacy. And who's going to argue with that? Who's going to say they don't want privacy from Google and Zoom and all the rest? I like it.
Privacy is very important to us, as Joe shows. Just one thing I want to add too, though, is we are using the hosted version, hosted by 8x8, I think the company is called, which is the company that creates Jitsi. So we're still using their servers right now. If we want a greater amount of privacy, then we can go into figuring out how to set it up where like one of us can host it, and we use the open source code, and that would be another level of privacy because we don't know what the 8x8 company is doing that's hosting this. So I imagine there's a good chance that it's more private than Zoom. But I'm not totally sure. So, but Jitsi for sure has the optionality where it's open source code, so anybody can deploy it, and then we can make it truly, I think, a lot more private as well.
Mhm. It seems like everything's brighter for some reason.
Everything's brighter in Jitsi, I guess. I don't know. It does seem like we have. I guess maybe it's just everybody's like background and everybody's look. Joe's in a sunny area. Mr. Ramos is in the white, the whiteness of the trees. Yeah, in the Misty Mountains. Yes.
The UI has very little. It's basically the UI is our backgrounds. So there's very little common space on the user interface, right? In Zoom, they've got the black background, which is behind most of the objects on the screen. And on mine, it's just everybody's background. So it's very pleasing. I like it.
Me too. I like the design and the fact that Joe's once again liking as he's yawning. And yeah, I like the design, like how you can also change the tiles and you can put people in focus. So that's super cool. I see Jorge said, okay, guys, great advanced exclamation point. Jorge had suggested that we wrap it up with Go Eden Fractal, and we are at 3 hours. So I'll also second that. I got some thumbs up from Joe. I see Perry with their hands up. So yeah, Perry or anybody else, if you have any last thoughts, then feel free. But
okay.
Yeah.
One last observation. I noticed before I raised my hand, and then Tadas raised his hand, and it did not put us in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. So it is a little bit more confusing. Zoom has that figured out better, where it orders it so you can see who raised their hand when. Jitsi is, under development, so hopefully we can get that feature built at some point. And I'm sure there's other stuff that Zoom does better too. But overall, I think like Jitsi does a lot of good stuff though.
Hey, I just want to, before we go to, Duane, I know you're super busy, but I'd love to learn more about Hypha and that stuff too. I'm still wanting to know more there. So if you have any time or whatever this week, that'd be great, man.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to be out starting tomorrow afternoon, so maybe even this afternoon. Yeah, a little bit later this afternoon, I'll show you how to go in there and yeah, for sure. That sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Duane, I'd love to learn more about Hypha, but I know I'm going to be listening to the fireside. Are we talking about a different time frame?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe after the fireside as well. Maybe have a quick run through, so I can send out an invite.
That would be great. I'd appreciate that very much. I'm dying for info.
Sure.
On
I'll post it in our fractalien. Well, I'll send it to both of you anyways, in private chat, but I'll also put it into the Telegram. So if anybody else wants to join as well.
Gracias.
All right, excellent.
I don't have a hat, but I have a tomato.
Got a tomato. Good enough. That fits. I'll get my hat over here as well. I keep getting the same hat because it's the closest one, so I'll wear maybe one more.
Don't make it sauce.
Don't make it sauce. Yeah, you gotta be careful. You don't want that hat to become a messy hat. This is kind of fitting too. Now that I'm out in like the prairie, so I can gallop in. Yeehaw. Okay. Is everybody ready to? Oh, and Duane's got a beautiful, luxurious something going on there. It looks like Duane's very warm down there.
Looking good, Noam.
Yeah. Oh, and Noam's got a nice. What is that? I've never seen Noam not using the frisbee hat. Noam's got something going blue.
Well, I'm on travel. I didn't bring my frisbee with me.
Okay, but you got a cool hat here. Yeah, you got like a blue and white baseball cap. That's classic. Maybe we could play ball one of these times.
50 cent.
Yeah, that's right. If Noam, fellow Jitsi, you want to reinvent with a rap career, we're happy to hear your raps. All right. Any other comments, or should we wrap it up? 3, 2, 1, go Eden Fractal.
Let's go.
Okay, sounds good. 3, 2, 1, 0. Go Eden Fractal. Thanks everybody so much. Go Jitsi too. Thanks to Jitsi.
Thanks, man.
And thanks, Barry. Thanks, Joe. Fellow Jitsi, Noam, Rosemary, and Duane. Hope everybody had a great time. And we have lots of events coming up this week, as you know. And looking forward to seeing you there and next week at Eden Fractal. Thanks, everybody.
You're moving us forward. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Perry. I appreciate you a lot, too. I appreciate you all. We're going forward in an awesome and very exciting direction. All right. Thanks all. See ya.